Calling this meeting to order, Monday, December 16th at 6 p.m. Crosby, would you do roll call, please?
Mike.
Here.
Jake.
Here.
Dale.
Here.
Eric.
Here.
Carolyn.
Here.
Craig.
Here.
Crosby here.
All right, this is an open meeting and it has been posted. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm going to ask everybody to please join me in a moment of silence for the Abundant Life Christian School in Madison. Thank you. Okay, up next, we're going to have recognitions, Employee of the Month.
Thank you. Bonnie, would you mind coming forward? So Bonnie's nominators have indicated, and they've had a lot of wonderful things to say, so I'm going to read it. Bonnie has been a dedicated paraprofessional at Prairie View Elementary School for many years, and her commitment to our school and its students is truly remarkable. She arrives to work each day, rarely missing a day, and often stays late into the afternoon to complete projects, long after others have left the building. Her consistency and reliability make her an integral part of the special education team. Bonnie works tirelessly to support our students with special needs, holding them accountable for their actions, behaviors, and academics. She develops individualized reward systems tailored to meet each student's needs and interests, enabling them to perform the best of their abilities. Bonnie is also incredibly professional, respecting the ideas and requests of both general and special education teachers, while remaining open to feedback and new ideas. Her willingness to collaborate with therapists and specialists demonstrates her dedication to learning new strategies to better support her students. Flexibility is another of Bonnie's strengths. She's always willing to adapt to schedule changes, stepping in whenever she is needed to ensure all students have a successful and positive day. Her open heart and compassionate nature allow her to make each student feel loved, cared for, and supported. As someone who truly goes above and beyond, Bonnie's work ensures that every child she supports has the best possible chance to succeed. Bonnie's patience and positivity are unmatched. She sees the best in every circumstance and works hard to find creative solutions to challenges. She prides herself on the growth and achievements of her students, celebrating their successes with a smile on her face and joy in her heart. Her calm demeanor and approachable nature make her a trusted resource for both students and staff. In addition to her work with students, Bonnie is a leader among our special education aid team and an asset to the entire PVES community. She intuitively understands how to support students and consistently upholds the student expectations, ensuring that all students have access to the learning and resources they need. Her deep knowledge of the building and the people within it make her a go-to resource for both practical needs and advice. Bonnie's dedication, integrity, and passion have a profound impact on the entire school. She is not only a role model for our students, but also a source of inspiration for staff. Her unwavering support, positivity, heart of gold make her an invaluable member of the Prairie View family. MASD and PVES are incredibly fortunate to have Bonnie's contributions over the years, and we're grateful for all that she does to make our school a better place. Thank you, Bonnie.
Bonnie. I'll stand up for her. Bonnie, that award makes you stay on for another 15 or 20 years. Is that okay?
Congratulations and thank you.
Congratulations.
Due to the amount of citizens' comments, we are going to hear from our students, do our student report ahead of citizens' comments, and then we will hit into that after their report. So up next, student report.
Come on up, guys.
Tonight I have with me
You're on.
I'm good. Okay. Ooh, that is much better. Hello, good evening. Tonight I have two students here from Prairie View, two sixth grade students, Sophia Barish and Cole Treader here, to tell you about some of the wonderful things that are happening at Prairie View. So you two can have a seat. Would you like to have the clicker yourselves, or do you want me to do it? Cole, come on over here.
Welcome. And when you talk, please speak into the microphone.
Put the microphone real close.
Hi, my name is Sophia Barish, and I'm a sixth grade student at Prairie View Elementary School. Thank you for having me here tonight. I'm very excited to be here and tell you all about my school and what makes it special and amazing.
Hi, my name is Cole Treader, and I am also a sixth grade student at Prairie View Elementary. Thank you for having me at the school board meeting. I'm also nervous and excited to be with you tonight. Sophia and I are both in Mrs. Borcher's classroom this year. Tonight, Mrs. Voss asked us to share a few highlights from this year at Prairie View. We will be sharing more about our buddy classrooms, High Interest Day, Mission in Your Pocket Day, Drama Club, and our student goal setting program.
Let's get started. Oh, sure. Our new art teacher, Miss Bergman, all had us.
Microphone, please.
Our new art teacher, Miss Bergman, all had us made art pieces that she put together to make You Belong, our school's theme for this year. First, I want to share with you about the Prairie View tradition of buddy classrooms. Every classroom is partnered with a different class. Usually, older kids are partnered with younger students. I love buddy classrooms because I get to know younger students and I love talking to them. My favorite activities are around the holidays when we get to craft together. You wouldn't imagine how much a kindergartner needs help with glue. I think buddy classrooms help us connect and form relationships, but now that I'm a sixth grade student, they also provide me with opportunities to be a leader.
Our buddy classrooms also help us during assemblies. We sit with our buddy classroom so the youngest students have role models to learn from. My favorite activity to do with my buddy is playing during recess. We learn the recess rules together, but we also have fun. I'm a football player, and I enjoy sharing my ideas and skills with younger kids. When we aren't playing or crafting together, we do actually help them with learning by sharing books and celebrating their writing accomplishments and helping them solve math problems.
For the past 2 years, we have hosted a High Interest Day. At Prairie View, this means we welcome over 40 community volunteers and MHS students for the day. Every student selects 4 different sessions to attend throughout the day. We learn more about hobbies, but we also get introduced to lots of different career options. Some of this year's sessions offered including cake decorating, tree trimming, elevator repair, calf veterinarian, and smoothie making. My favorite session that I attended was the PVES Pride session, where we made placemats for homeless shelters serving Thanksgiving meals.
High Interest Day is one of my favorite days of the school year. Last year, I met the UW Whitewater football coach. I didn't realize that some coaches were also authors. This year, my favorite session was about custom cars. He taught us about mechanics and his car shows throughout the United States. He brought a car without a muffler and revved it so loud we could hear it across the school.
This year, we completed gratitude activities with our buddy classrooms on High Interest Day and enjoyed a flame-throwing performance as a grand finale. The performer even ate fire, but don't worry, he told us multiple times not to try this at home.
Mission in Your Pocket Day was held on October 4th this year. Our teachers taught us about our school's mission statement.
Next, we thought about why we come to school, and then rewrote our school's mission in our own words.
On Friday, October 4th, every student had the Prairie View mission in their own words in their pocket. Staff members asked students to share in their own words why they attend school.
Now we have a bulletin board in our lobby with everyone's mission. Before this day, I never heard of a mission statement before. Knowing our school's mission makes me a little more aware of why I spend so much time at school.
Mrs. Olin has started an amazing drama club at Prairie View Elementary. Our first performance was Wizard of Oz in 2022. I played the Cowardly Lion. Being in a drama club showed me that I can do more than I thought, and it also helps me prepare for future speaking opportunities like tonight in front of the school board.
Since 2022, the drama club has grown even more. A few weeks ago, many of you missed a great performance of The Christmas Carol. We had over 32 students participate in this play. I was Ebenezer Scrooge in the performance. It was a unique experience working with different grade levels. It was also a lot of hard work and forced me to work on my time management skills. I even did homework during the downtime of rehearsals.
This year, PreACT students all have a goal that aligns with Mrs. Voss's goals for the school. All kindergarten through third grade students have a goal related to reading fluency. You might think that reading fluency is just about how quickly you read, but fluency includes accurate word reading, expression, and an appropriate rate. When we have good reading fluency, we have better reading understanding.
4th through 6th grade students choose a different goal that supports us for our work in math. Sometimes, kids rush through their work. We all have a goal to attend to precision. When you are attending to precision, you are learning how to manage your time and become more efficient. You are also paying attention to the problem and taking time to answer it accurately and thoroughly.
When I am learning about precision, I am more likely to slow down while working and double check my work.
Before we conclude our presentation, we wanted to know if anybody has any questions about what it feels like to be a student at Prairie View Elementary.
Anybody have any questions? We do not.
I got one.
Oh, Carolyn, sorry.
What's your favorite part about the day? We're going to go with day, and then I want to hear your favorite season at school when you're celebrating stuff.
I love going to school because all the teachers are so great and everything they learn is like really, it applies to everything that we're doing and they always find a way to make it fun. And my favorite season to go to school in is probably winter because we do so many fun activities around the holidays and it makes the holidays more exciting.
I like PreACT because I really like it how I feel like safe and always welcome, and I learn more about things about new subjects. And my favorite season is fall because there might be snow, and I like playing on the grass or the blacktop.
Nice.
That's all we have for you tonight. Thank you again for having us at the meeting. We love talking to you about buddy classrooms, high interest day, missions in your pocket day, drama club, and student goal setting.
Now we're going to hand the microphone off to Mrs. Voss to share with you more about our school. Thank you.
Nice
Great
job.
job.
Thank you. Outstanding.
Great job. Another wonderful presentation.
Absolutely.
Very, very impressive.
Great job. Thank you very
So
much.
prepared.
Did we get some pictures? Did we get some pictures of those
Mom,
two?
Dad, you guys want to come up and snap pictures of them?
Real quick? We have 1 minute. Why don't you guys,
Yeah.
can you guys sit back down? We'll get some pictures. Pretend like you're talking in the microphone.
You can come
on
right
up,
up in
come on
front.
up. Come on.
Right in the middle.
Proud parents, I'm guessing? Yes? You should be. Thank you very much.
Well done. Nice job, guys.
All right, up next, we are going to have citizens' comments. Mr. Verts?
Okay. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to make his or her comments. We will signal you when we are at the 2.5-minute mark to begin to wrap up your comments. We expect all speakers to honor the time limit, refrain from using inappropriate language, and be respectful in their comments. Citizens who do not meet these expectations may be prohibited from speaking at future board meetings. Speakers are to address the board, not the audience. The school board does not endorse any comments made by members of the community here tonight. We would like to remind our community members of the impact of their words on others, and our children are watching. We commit to listening to you in a respectful manner and ask that you do the same. We expect the audience will be respectful of speakers and of the board and refrain from responding with verbal comments, cheering, applause, or behavior that will detract from the meeting. If proper decorum is not adhered to, the board president can suspend citizens' comments. Please note that no obstructions can be created between the board and the audience. Visual aids cannot be used, and the area behind the speaker will be cleared during public comment. Also, to respect our speakers and meeting participants, please silence your cell phones. Up first, Maya Delugi. 3 minutes, okay, Maya, and I'll give you a wrap it up at 2.5, okay?
Perfect, thank you.
All right.
Good Guten Tag. Hello, my name is Maya DeLugi, and I'm in 8th grade at Parkview Middle School here in Mukwonago. As I started the German 1 program, I am devastated by the news of the decision being made today. When I signed up for German, I had the thought of being able to talk to not only my entirely German friend, who has parents who immigrated from Germany, but to be able to talk and interact with hundreds of people in Germany, as I'm expecting to go in May for the Das Turnfest, the Gymnastics Fest in Leipzig, Germany. Not only do I want to acknowledge the fact that I love speaking German, but I also love my teacher. Frau Hafmann is wunderbar, is wonderful. And she is always willing to help students with their grammar, German speaking, and many others. She even does a check-in almost every class to make sure that students are comfortable with the lesson. She's helped me so much in WELIX, or World Language Exploratory, that I couldn't wait to have such an amazing teacher teach me all year long. Her passion for German and teaching is immaculate. She's been to Germany multiple times and has told me many amazing and fun-filled stories about her German-speaking experiences and the best tips for improving. I would hate to see her lose her job and have her see the devastating news of the decision you may make. I'm also very joyfully aware that my classmates and best friends at German 1 at Parkview have also written letters and essays to protect our precious German program. Most of us aren't German or have even learned German, but we are amazing. As I've stated before, German is used pretty much everywhere in America. And not only that, you know kindergarten, like the grade? That's German too, the word itself, kindergarten. Kids in kindergarten are taught the basic building blocks of life, like math, reading, writing, and maybe even the ABCs. But if we were to take away those basic building blocks, when will our kids learn to publicly speak or something? That's almost like what it would be like if we take away WELIX, like World Language Exploratory. Take that away, and it's basically like taking away the fact that you could teach your baby how to say mama or dada. Well, if we take away the basic German speaking, how will people know how to professionally speak? How will people know how to go to Germany and talk about things, order food, order drinks, talk about different things that they do? If we take away the German program, we lose an immaculate teacher, and the easy way to learn German, the easy path about improving, and the success. All things considered, the German program should stay. I love German, and others do too. It's an immaculate way and a superb way to show heritage. And I would like to graduate from German 5, like the seniors who have already graduated. But
30 seconds, Maya.
I've also seen 7th graders who are excited to take German. They won't even get to begin to learn if we end the program. Been taught very much and extremely well, but I have just started. I can't stop now. I've never settled for anything less than success, and I think you can agree. But if the middle school and high school German program gets taken away, no one will succeed, no one will finish, and some won't even get to start.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Next up, Danica Krall. At 2.5 minutes, I'll give you a warning, okay, Danica? You're up.
Hello, my name is Danica Krall, and I'm in German 1 this year.
Danica, speak in the microphone, please.
Hello, my name is Danica Krall, and I'm in German 1 this year as an 8th grader at Parkview Middle School. World Language Exploratory has helped be a huge part in me joining German because of how it really helped engage me into German. And I know it helps other kids decide which foreign language they like to do. 2 7th graders I know for sure that really like German from World Language Exploratory are Kyla Krall and Quinn Reed. Those two really enjoy learning German and love the teacher. And a lot of my friends talk about how much they love German class with Miss Hafman and how much she helped them learn. Miss Hafman is one of my favorite teachers as well as one of my favorite classes. You can tell she's very passionate about teaching German. Miss Hafman has really helped all her German classes be able to talk fluently in German by the end of the year. I would hate for students not to be able to take German in the future at Parkview Middle School and in high school as well, as to see Miss Hafman not be able to teach German anymore because she is a very devoted teacher. If you get rid of German 1 in middle school, students like me would not be able to take German 5 in high school. This will put them behind other students from other districts. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you reconsider your decision about how much students like this class.
Thank you.
Next up, Jude Elliott. At 2.5 minutes, Jude, I'll give you a warning. Thank you.
Thanks. Good evening. My name is Jude Elliott, and I am the German teacher at the high school. Tonight you will be receiving letters written by students and parents of the community, as well as professionals in the field of German education, detailing the importance and benefits of continuing to provide German at the middle school level. Several past and current students shared their personal connections and learning outcomes as a result of beginning German at PVMS in these letters, and I'd like to highlight some for you now. They include connecting with their German heritage, bonding with siblings over a shared interest in German, a one-up on their peers when it comes to English vocabulary, developing and refining their communication skills earlier, being part of a tight-knit community of peers who have moved up in the program together, the chance to study abroad, positive alterations to their perspective of the world and their role in it, the strengthening of perseverance and determination, a desire to pursue post-secondary education, and an opportunity to learn who they are on a personal and global level. Students with the opportunity to begin world language studies in middle school statistically go on to achieve higher academically than their peers who do not take a language. It has been proven in peer-reviewed studies that these students also trend towards taking more courses and more academically challenging courses. Starting a world language in middle school means better retention due to brain plasticity and the chance to advance to upper levels of a language that may bring forth more opportunities such as college credit, scholarships, study abroad programs, and a sense of pride in oneself at their linguistic successes. MASD offers all of these benefits through the current German-based courses of World Language Exploratory, affectionately known as WOLIX, Intro to German, and German 1. As a mandatory course, WOLIX provides the initial exposure to world language learning as well as exposure to multiple world languages. This gives our students the experience to make an informed decision on if they would like to pursue language, as well as which one. Additionally, German 1 is one of 3 courses offered at PVMS for high school credit, exposing students to the rigor and work required to be successful in a high school course before entering MHS. Our students have brunted the multiple staffing changes of the German program over the last several years. This has led to the ebb and flow of enrollment, uncertainty in the strength of the program, and thus the district recommendation. This recommendation will further hinder the growth of the program by delaying exposure of German to our students via the removal of WOLIX in 7th grade. This recommendation would also remove the possibility of offering German 5, our current highest level of German offered at the high school. Despite these drawbacks and obstacles, there are 2 wonderfully dedicated and passionate educators refueling the interests of students for German.
30 seconds, Jude.
A positive impact on the program is being made, but more time is needed to truly see those effects, especially in terms of enrollment numbers. I urge the board to defer the district recommendation for the removal of German from PVMS. Instead, provide a grace period that allows the board, district, and community to see the powerful impact offering German at PVMS has. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next up, Evelyn Zelkles. Is that close, Evelyn? You're up, Evelyn. At 30 seconds left, I'll give you a warning. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Evelyn Shakelis, and I'm a sophomore at Mukwonago High School. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm here to advocate for preserving the German program at the middle school level. Language education is about more than just learning vocabulary and grammar. It is a gateway to new cultures, perspectives, and opportunities. German in particular is a language of significant global importance. It is spoken by over 100 million people worldwide and is the most widely spoken language in Europe. Germany is also a global leader in science, engineering, and business. A German program at the middle school provides students with the foundation to become a fluent German speaker. Research consistently shows that younger learners have a greater capacity to acquire language skills than those who start later. Moreover, German connects students to a rich cultural heritage, which is strongly rooted in Mukwonago. Take a look at comparing schools around us. Arrowhead and Oconomowoc provide 4 world languages: Chinese, French, German, and Spanish. Catamarang provides French, German, Spanish, and Muskego provides Spanish and French. All of these schools that I've just listed have higher ACT scores than Mukwonago, which I learned Wednesday in advisory at the high school. Mukwonago has recently been promoting having higher test scores and academic excellence. Getting rid of such a vital way of learning and growing is not a way to boost test scores, which I know this district highly values. We owe it to our students to provide them with every possible tool to succeed during and after their high school years. I would strongly suggest not dissolving a middle school program, but actually expanding our world language program as a whole. If the decision to dissolve the German program is primarily a financial one, I respectfully urge the board to consider that there are other ways to address budget concerns without eliminating valuable educational opportunities for our students. Decisions like these should not reflect only financial considerations, but also the district's commitment to offering a well-rounded, globally minded education. I encourage the district to explore alternative cost-saving measures. I'm a German 3 student at Mukwonago, which I hope to reach German 5. I use my knowledge of German day to day. German and English are closely related, and I use it in my day-to-day life, including on my normal English English class. I don't know what's just English class. And it helps me expand my knowledge on historical fiction books.
30 seconds, Evelyn.
Having a background in German has allowed me to understand world history events more. I am proud to represent Mukwonago and I'm a proud student of Mukwonago. But what would boost my confidence even more was representing this district on a nation and state level with understanding that the Mukwonago prioritizes having a diverse and extensive academic opportunity for their students, especially something so important as world language. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Ashley Hafman. Ashley, I have to ask you a couple questions. You didn't put your phone number, your email, or your topic. Is this about German? Well, afterwards you can write that in for me, okay? All right, don't tell anybody. At 30 seconds, I'll give you a warning, okay?
Thank you.
All right, you're good.
Hello, my name is Ashley Hafman and I teach German at Parkview Middle School. I'm here to express my concern about the proposed elimination of German at Parkview. The current German offerings at PVMS provide students with an early foundation in one of the world's most widely spoken languages and a key player in global business, STEM, and culture. Introducing German at the middle school level follows research that shows starting language learning at a young age enhances cognitive development and increases fluency potential. Without the German middle school program, future students will lose the opportunity to build a strong linguistic base early, thus eliminating their ability to reach their highest potential in the upper levels. Early exposure to German is also important for meeting the developmental stage students are in during middle school, as well as for sustaining a program. Our earliest offered world language course, World Language Exploratory, or WLEX, in 7th grade is the best class we could ever offer our students here in Mukwonago. It's the perfect exposure to both languages offered here and allows students to make informed decisions about their future language interests. It's also an essential feeder to our other language courses, Intro to German, German 1, and obviously our classes at the high school. I guarantee if you ask any of my German students if WLEX influenced their language decision, that 85 to 90% of them would say yes. Students can then also start to build a relationship with their language teacher from day one, which is something I strive to do. I provide more than just exposure to material. I provide personal connections to a culture, language, and to the infinite number of opportunities and experiences I have had due to my learning of German. Also, with 6th graders coming to PVMS in a few years, this is the perfect opportunity to start our students even earlier, thus will benefit them linguistically and help grow our program even more than we already have in recent years. In addition to what I have shared tonight, I also have the input of others. In my recent correspondence with the German consulate in Chicago, we have received their support to maintain our German offerings at PVMS. We have obtained letters of support from various German organizations and professors in the state of Wisconsin. We have also received letters from members of the Mukwonago community. These letters are from parents, past and current educators of the district, past and current students of the district, and students who intend to take German next year. All of these will be given to you at the conclusion of tonight. I urge you to reconsider this proposal and elect to preserve all of our current German offerings at PVMS for the
30
benefit.
seconds, Ashley.
Thank you. For the benefit of current and future students. I am happy to collaborate and share more about our program history and the work that we have done in recent years that have started our German numbers to actually rise. Thank you for your attention and commitment to providing a robust education for the students of Mukwonago. I appreciate your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Is there a place that I could leave these for you?
Ashley, do you teach sheep's head? Sheep's head? Can you say that in German for us?
Nein, kann ich nicht. Entschuldigung. Wir machen das nicht. Tut mir leid.
Right on. Bonnie Libby? Oh, she wrote her name down. Yeah, okay, congratulations again, Bonnie. Okay, we're good. Erica Connor? Say her name right?
Oh, not even close.
I'll give you a warning at 30 seconds.
Yeah. Good evening. Happy, Merry, early Christmas. Nice
Merry
to
Christmas.
see you guys. I'm here speaking in favor of the German program. I took the opportunity to go ahead and look at the presentation that you'll be getting later this evening. And there are a couple things that just stood out to me that I thought I would just share from experience. As a board, you often get information given to you in black and white. Numbers on a page, you're gonna get a presentation tonight showing the numbers between German and Spanish. And it looks very logical, and it looks very like easy decisions because it's very black and white. What I have also learned sitting in your seats is that we often make decisions that seem very easy in black and white, and the impacts in living color are a lot bigger than we ever could have imagined. When I looked ahead to the proposal, and there are two options, I understand by looking at them, there isn't a proposal here to get rid of German. It's simply to move German 1 out of the middle school to the high school. But I would say, and I would guess in my honest and humble opinion, that by moving German 1 out of the middle school and sending it to the high school, you would be in turn, in living color, getting rid of the German program. If you have a student starting at Parkview in Spanish, when they get to the high school, they're not gonna switch over to German. So I think over a course of 4 years, you will see it disappear. The proposal says, let's get rid of it, move it to the high school to reinvigorate the program. And I cannot think of a way that that could possibly and logically actually happen. So I think if you do choose to move it out of the middle school, you are voting to get rid of the German program. That's just my opinion. The other option that is going to be in the proposal tonight is to maintain status quo. I also think that that's not a good option when we have a program that I believe is very, very important. We have a very strong German presence in southeastern Wisconsin. We have a lot of global corporations out of Germany and manufacturing right here. The high schoolers go to a German job fair every year at the Ingleside, where German companies are there talking to our German high school students about all of the opportunities available to them. There's a great presence and there's a great need. We can't be happy with status quo. If these numbers need to improve, they need to improve. And we need to make a plan to make that happen. Jude mentioned, please defer so that we can put a plan in place so that we can do this. And I think that's fair. I don't know if there's been a plan in place. It doesn't sound like one. If we had a plan of improvement, which we use in other areas in education, put together a goal. Don't just look at the numbers in black and white and cut it and not really know what's going to happen. Give a timeline. Say, hey, these kids, these sixth graders, they were pretty incredible. And when they brought up drama club, it hit me, we have drama clubs in elementary school. Do we have German clubs at elementary school? There are so many great opportunities to grow this program.
30 seconds.
If given the opportunity, the encouragement, the resources, and the time to do that. And honestly, I actually think starting it later is the wrong direction to go. I have always been a proponent of we need to start our languages sooner. They need to trickle down into our elementary schools. Middle school, in my opinion, is even too late. So that would be my ask, that you consider deferring and put a plan together to improve this so that we can maintain the strong standards that we have. Thanks.
Thank you.
Brooke Connor. Did I say that right, Brooke? Also no. At 30 seconds, I'll give you a warning. Thank you.
Hallo, ich heiße Brooke Connor und ich bin ein ehemaliger Student in Mukwonago Hochschule und ich habe 23 Universitätskredit bekommen. Hello, my name is Brooke Connor and I'm a 2022 graduate of Mukwonago High School, where I took German 1 through 5 as well as an independent study with Danielle Schultz and 2 semesters of advanced German language and grammar at UW-Whitewater. I graduated high school with 40 college credits, over half of those being in German. Had I pursued a German as my sole major, I would have been able to graduate over a year and a half early. Instead, I chose to pursue a minor in German language, which I was able to complete by the end of my first year of college. Without the course offering of German 1 at the middle school, I would not have had the opportunity to pursue any of these college-level classes, significantly reducing my chance at getting ahead in college. Because of these credits, I also received an academic scholarship to UW-Whitewater. Without the opportunity of German 1 in middle school, I may not have even pursued German at all. Not only do I believe that German 1 should remain in the middle school, but I also believe that it should be offered at an earlier age in order to give other children the same opportunity I had. Dankeschön.
Thank you.
Taylor Emmerich.
Hi, my name is Taylor Emmerich. I'm in 9th grade at MHS. I'm currently enrolled in German 2 and have been studying German since I first encountered it at Parkview through World Language Exploratory, or WALX, in 7th grade. While in WALX, I was introduced to both Spanish and German, which gave me an important opportunity to explore my language options. It was through this class that I first discovered my interest in German. The exposure to different languages allowed me to make an informed choice, and I decided to pursue German, a decision that has shaped both my academic and personal growth. Taking German 1 as a middle schooler laid a solid foundation for my learning. The curriculum was designed to help me grasp the basics of the language early on, which has been important in my continued study. Thanks to the early exposure, I was able to build confidence and gain a deeper understanding of German grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation skills that have been essential as I progress through more advanced levels. Studying German in middle school also has prepared me for an increased intensity of high school language courses. By having this foundation, I feel much more equipped to tackle the challenges of higher level German, allowing me to engage with the material at a deeper level and giving me a head start in my high school language education. I strongly believe that removing German from the middle school would not only limit the opportunities for future students, but also hinder their ability to fully prepare for high school and beyond. The language skills we develop now will continue to benefit us in the future. Without access to a foundational German course at an early stage, students who are interested in learning German may not have the same chance to pursue it later in high school, or they might not feel as confident as I did when they eventually get the chance to. It's important to remember that many students discover a passion for German only after they're exposed through the middle school program, like I did. I believe that all students deserve the chance to explore different languages and have those experiences that shape their academic and personal futures. By keeping German at Parkview, we are giving future students the opportunity to develop language skills that could open doors to future careers, travel, or cultural understanding. I respectfully ask that you reconsider this decision and keep the current German offering at Parkview. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, that concludes our citizens' comments. We're going to move on to presentations, staffing, sectioning, and enrollment.
Thank you. Over the last year or so, we've begun the process of looking at enrollments, looking at our overall district enrollment, looking at grade level trends. One of the requests that was had was taking a look at class sizes and in programs in particular as to where their enrollment has been over the last several years. So tonight we'll be doing a presentation both on sectioning and then also class size policy that will be coming forward.
Okay. So in November, Rachel and I provided an update for you, Tom, as well, regarding sectioning and class size policy. So tonight we're going to give you a further update on the work that has been done in that area, including some proposed solutions and options for addressing some of the challenges that have surfaced. So first, just a review of the work that has been done this far in these two areas. As we shared with you last time, we've been working with our teacher and parent advisory groups, as well as our administrator groups, to gather feedback regarding the class size policy. In November, we met with both of these groups again, shared proposed revisions to the class size policy, collected feedback from them, also collected feedback from our administrators, and have utilized that feedback in the proposal that you're going to see tonight. We have continued to analyze our enrollment trends at both elementary and the secondary level, and then we've been engaging in discussions with departments regarding course enrollment, really looking at our course offerings and our course enrollment and figuring out what adjustments need to be made there. In November, I met with each department chair at the high school, as well as the counseling staff, administrators, and we really talked through the different course offerings we have and what adjustments need to be made there. And then, as we shared before, we are continuing to refine our high school scheduling process, which Stephanie's going to talk a little bit more about tonight, to make sure that we have efficiency and accuracy in that process. I don't know if it's working, Tom. So just as a reminder, as we engaged in this work, these are the priorities that we had top of mind as we were working on this. So first and foremost, wanting to make sure that we're providing the highest quality education experience for our students. That includes making sure that we're maintaining rigorous course offerings and that we're offering things that students are interested in. We want to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our students. At the secondary level, this means that we want to make sure we're getting kids into the classes that they are enrolling in and that they want to be in. So again, that's where that work comes with the scheduling process. And then finally, we want to make sure that we're maximizing the impact of our employees. We want to keep our employees at 100% full-time as much as we possibly can. So now we're going to move into talking about some proposed solutions, and we're going to start with the class size policy.
All right, so Tom, can you click forward?
Oh, I got you.
Oh, sorry, thank you.
There you go.
So last month, I talked a little bit about the current class size policy and some of the advantages and disadvantages, specifically when it comes to two of those priorities. One around that maximizing the impact of our staff, and that our current class size policy really presented a barrier around some of those staffing decisions. And so we, and then the second was really around class size, and that with the class size indicators that the way that they are written in our current policy, that was really the only indicator that generated a additional support in a classroom. And we know that there's lots of other reasons that we might warrant additional support in a classroom: behavior needs, academic needs. And so we took the current class size policy to administrators, to our teacher advisory council, to our parent advisory council, and we asked them for feedback. We drafted a new class size policy. We had that vetted through Neola, which is our the company we work with that drafts all of our board policy. And I attached that in the board docs, a revised class size policy. With feedback from all of those stakeholders, we feel like we have a better policy that positions us to be able to tackle some of those barriers that our former policy really didn't allow us to do. So some of the highlights of the new class size policy, one, are that we removed paraprofessionals from the policy. And really that allows us to, again, flexibly put those paraprofessionals where we need them. So by no means are we eliminating paraprofessionals. They are an absolute necessity in our system. When we talk to our teacher advisory, when we talk to our administrators, we needed to make that very clear. Last month I talked about the cross-district comparison of class size policies. In nowhere will you find paraprofessionals as part of a district policy. And so, again, we really just need to give flexibility to our principals to be able to staff their paraprofessionals where their paraprofessionals are needed. And so by removing them from the policy, it allows our principals to have that flexibility. We included in the policy guidelines around best practices to support staffing rather than just class size numbers. So including language around what are the age of the students, right? We know that putting 30 kindergartners in a class is not appropriate. We would have a whole lot of kindergarten teachers probably quit, right? Because kindergartners are a little bit more needy, right, than your high school students. And so putting in clear guidelines around what is best practice when it comes to class size is really important versus just looking at a class number. Our teacher advisory and our administrators were really, they really viewed the class size ranges as being something that was advantageous to the policy. So wanting to keep that range still in place to just provide, right, some assurance so that, again, the fear of you're not going to stack those 30 kids in our kindergarten class. No, we're not going to do that, but now we have that language in the policy that still, again, assures people that we're not going to do that. And then again, we're providing administrators with options to be flexible with their staffing needs. So in our former policy, right, it had language as, you know, if by this date we have this many kids, we add a staff member. Well, we know that we can't add staff in August. It is really difficult to do that. Whereas our current policy, right, we can look at our numbers, we can staff appropriately, we can build in cushion where we need to, so that we're not stuck in a position where in August we're looking for a new teacher. That's just not an ideal state for people. So again, we have a proposal for a recommended new class size policy.
Tonight we'll discuss it, and then again in January, our hope is to bring that back for you to adopt.
Okay.
Turn it over to Angela.
All right. So then, talking about some of our courses with declining enrollment, when we look at our course offerings that we have at the high school, they are driven by our course enrollment numbers. And since our students are self-selecting these elective courses, they are driven by the interest and the needs of our students. So that's something that we're constantly monitoring and evaluating. And so, as Joe mentioned, we were asked to look at some courses that have declining enrollment. These are courses that have been trending down over the last 4 years or have sections that are running below the class size policy. These courses, as you can see on the screen, fall in our computer science classes, our German at both middle and high school, a couple of our higher level core classes, and then some of our CTE classes. So first, we'll talk a little bit about some possible options for German. And we put some of the German numbers and also the Spanish numbers in the presentation for you tonight. This is something, as Joe mentioned, also has been talked about in the past with the steady decline in the numbers of German at both the middle and the high school level. So we have for you the last 5 years here, but 6 to 8 years ago, our numbers for German 1 at Parkview were in the 60s and 70s. And then you can see that for the last 4 years, they've been pretty consistently in the mid to low 20s. When you look at the numbers for the high school, 8 years ago in 2016-17, our total program for the high school had 158 students. Now, in the last couple of years, we've been hovering around the 70s and 80s, and you can see on the screen that even a few years before these last 2 years, we were more in the low 100s. So those numbers have been declining. For comparison, we did put the Spanish numbers in there for you. Although you can see that at the middle school, the numbers do vary a bit from year to year. And if I flip back here, you can see that that is the case also in the German numbers, especially for the intro to German, the numbers vary a bit from year to year, up and down. Same thing with the Spanish at the middle school. But when you look at the high school, you can see that the Spanish numbers, if you follow the totals from 2020-21 down, you can see that those numbers are steadily increasing. So some possible options for these courses that are showing declining enrollment. In terms of German, we have a couple of options. We can continue with the current offerings that we have, which would be offering the intro to German as well as German 1 at Parkview Middle School, and then continuing on with German 1 to 5 at the high school. Then we would address low enrollment in those classes through staffing adjustments. Option 2, we could move the German programming to the high school level. The idea there would be to rebuild the program to really make a concerted effort with just one building, one space to really try to rebuild that program. So those are the two options that we have for German. For computer science, there were a few courses that have historically over the last 4 or 5 years had low enrollment. The math department took a look at those and they decided to sunset several of those courses. Some of them have not been able to run over the last year or so just because of the low numbers. Some of them have run with numbers that are below our guidelines. And so they are really focusing on the courses that students are showing interest in. So they still have a number of offerings, with 2 of those offerings being AP offerings. And then finally, with our CTE classes, we are going to continue to utilize the strategy of combining high-level classes where we can. I think at the last meeting, I gave the example of our autos class. The students who were interested in autos 2 were combined with autos 1 because there were just a few students who were selecting autos 2. So the teacher was able to combine those and still provide the experience for the students and then utilize our space and our staff to the highest degree. So those would be our possible options for those courses.
So Stephanie is going to talk a little bit about this slide, but one of the pieces that we are really focused on is, again, like Angela stated, our priority is making sure that our kids who are electing their classes, so our high schoolers in particular, are getting into the classes that they want to be in. We know that when they are in the classes they want to be in, that they are more engaged, that they are more likely to do well in those classes. And so last year when we scheduled kids, we thought we were right on pace. And this year at the high school in the beginning of the year, we had over 900 course request changes. And so Stephanie and her team, and I'll let her speak to this, did a fantastic job analyzing like why. Why did we have 900 course request changes at the beginning of the year? We had 24% of our courses not running at 75% capacity or above. So again, we talked about that last time. So those are classes where if the class size limit was 24, it was running at 75% of 24, which I don't know that math, but you get the right point. So 24% of our courses. And in terms of our fill rate for students, so the number of students who had a full schedule, we had 95% of students with a full schedule at the beginning of the year. And so we knew we had some adjustments to make. And so again, working with Stephanie and her team, we made several changes. And so I'll let Stephanie talk about those changes.
Good evening. I just had this conversation, actually. We have a parent advisory group now at the high school, so I just was meeting with the parent advisory group at 5 and running through some of these changes and getting feedback from them, too, on how we can communicate with parents better and students better as we move in this direction, and got some great feedback from them. We have consulted with a few other neighboring districts on their scheduling process and have learned some really good things in the process. You know, sometimes when we do the same thing over and over and over again here, we don't realize that we're missing a key step to it. So like for instance, one of the places we moved, we were gonna have our kids register on February 18th. As I was meeting with a former principal from a local high-achieving district, he went, when I said that, and I said, why are you doing that? And he said, if you could move that up even a week so you have time to do, and then had a list of things that we need some time to do in between. So we did. We moved it from February 18th to February 11th, and then built in on this day, starting the 19th of February, we're gonna check this. Then we're gonna check this on February 20th, trying to tighten what we're doing and make sure that more of our kids can get where they need to be at the beginning, so we're not making those 900 course requests change. So one of the parents in the parent advisory said, but we've had to make changes in the past because a few years ago, my freshman child didn't have a social studies class and I could be wrong on this, math class, which made me go, what? Like, not good at poker. I think Joe has mentioned that. I was like, well, that's not right. We need to do that better. So you're not making a schedule change. Your child has the classes your child needs to have. We need to do better at that. We updated those timelines to make sure that we're doing things in a more timely manner, so we have time to spread those things out. We created course options, so one of the things that's happened in scheduling just is that we have a lot of students that do early release or late arrival at the high school. It is a perk definitely for a senior to have earned that and get good grades and have good attendance and want to sleep in a little bit their senior year. And we have a lot of students that do work release or youth options, which is great. We want to have that and grow that program. But in the past, they don't choose that in their schedule. So we're making them choose an elective that we're then correcting down the road. So we're creating course numbers at this point, a simple switch that is going to help us a ton for a student to choose work release or youth options. I know I want to do that and then not have them choose an elective that we end up dropping down the road, and then we see some imbalance in numbers happening when they do that. Same thing for something like the early release and late arrival. So just some tweaks that we're making to the process so we get the most accurate numbers as early as we can as we're making decisions about staffing and getting kids to the places they need to. And then,
Can I say something?
Yeah.
So we staff, I'm looking at your face, Craig, and maybe I'm reading it wrong, but we staff based on the courses that students select in March. And so if 20 students say that they're going to take auto, we assume 20 kids are taking auto and we staff for that. And so when 900 kids in the fall say, just kidding, right? And it's not just kidding, right? But I'm changing that. That can drastically change our staffing plan. And so to Stephanie's point, that's why getting ahead of this is so important. We need to have accurate sections and accurate counts of the students that are in those courses because our whole staffing model is based on what students are in what classes. Still making the face, but I'm just going to let it go for now.
So part of what I just talked to the parent advisory group about is just how can we communicate better. So we definitely have a pretty different plan in place for our counselors to be meeting with students, pushing into classes, different communication things that they're going to be helping us with to make sure that our students are choosing accurately. And then I was asking the parents, and I have a whole list on a note sheet, how we can communicate better with them, providing them the presentations that we're giving to kids so they can look those over at home. Communicating regularly. We now do a weekly newsletter instead of a monthly newsletter at the high school. So communicating starting January 3rd, really when we return for break and we start talking about scheduling, communicating things that we want parents to talk to students about or that we're looking at. And again, we want the students in the right place and where they need to be rigor-wise and the courses that they need to take. So. Questions at all?
900 changes?
A little bit under 1,000.
Okay. Explain that real quick. Give me 60 seconds. Why does it seem like so many? Maybe it's not. I don't know.
No, it's a lot.
So why?
It's plain and simple a lot. There's various reasons. Some of it is because students might not have everything they needed. Some of it is because we do see a pattern over, I was telling the parents this, between May and August. We see a pattern in our district or at the high school that students don't want the rigor in August that they thought that they wanted in May. So they tend to level down a bit between May and August. So clearly we need to talk to the kids about that a little bit better. Some of it is as simple as students trying to get in classes with their friends. And so they see their friends' schedule and then they try to do that. Some of it is because we don't have them historically choose early release or late arrival early. And so now they're trying to get a first hour, a yellow block free so they can get that late arrival that we could plan for in May, but we haven't. And so now they're trying to move the schedule around so they don't have a yellow block. So it's complicated in 10-fold, probably 20-fold. But we do think we've identified a lot of them that with some tweaks in the spring as we're doing the process should cut down on that.
So not to sound like an old dude, but maybe we should have the parents and teachers talk about doing something different so the kids aren't dictating chaos? Does that sound like an old dude talking? Yeah, okay.
No, it doesn't, actually. Yeah. I mean, again, we're going to try to front load our communication so we just understand how incredibly important those selections are in February when they're making them versus maybe choosing things they're not sure of and then wanting to change down the road. And some of that is on us to communicate better with the students and the parents on that, which we're going to really try to do.
I have a question about German.
All right.
Sorry, can I move on here?
Go
Thank
for
you,
it.
Stephanie. So, the German discussion tonight, pretty amazing. Thank you for talking in German. That was cool. That was a cool opening. Is it Brooke? Good job. Is there a German club at Parkview or at the grade schools?
So, if I can be blunt, this is only my third year in the district and Cap Elliott's second. We have a lot of things in the works that we couldn't have accomplished in the short time that we've been here. I know Cap has started a German program. I anticipate starting one in the next few years at Parkview. Wait, what did I say? Program. Sorry, German, yes, club, sorry. And then I know Cap Elliott has some things in the works up at the high school too that he'd like to do.
And we have talked about bringing middle school students to the high school and vice versa so that they can also start experiencing those activities and just getting that general interest in younger and younger. I recently did a sustainability program. I earned a grant for it. I got to go to the National Convention of Foreign Languages in Philadelphia right before Thanksgiving. Excuse me, right before Thanksgiving, to connect and learn some more about how to sustain and build programs, and so got some resources on how to get programs all the way down into elementary school, and if not like as a class, then like as clubs and activities and outreach, things like that.
Thank you. I didn't see a whole bunch of multivariable calculus people in the crowd tonight, so Dr. Cook, we do talk about fiscally conservative budgets,
Yep.
et cetera. You want to talk about that a little bit because it's important, but
Yeah, I mean, so the financial, enrollment, as Stephanie, Rachel, and Angela presented, I mean, enrollment drives who we hire and where we have to hire them and how we go about staffing the teachers. So I think a lot of the measures that Stephanie and her team have put in place are going to help shore up what we have from numbers-wise at the high school. All of the classes that we talked about at the secondary level tonight, with the exception of the German program, those are things that we would do on an annual basis. Of course, if we have 2 kids signed up for a computer science course, we'll talk about that. And we wouldn't run that for 2. If we had advanced, like an advanced 4 or advanced 5, we might combine those students. And I believe over the last several years, we've combined German 4 and 5, to make sure that kids could get to that 5th year in German. One of the things, and just before we get into the dollars and cents of it, when I was in school, I venture to guess when most folks in the room were in school, in order to go to one of the 4-year colleges in Wisconsin, one of the UW schools, you needed 2 years of language. So for a long time, you saw, particularly Spanish, German, French, whatever was offered, years 1 and 2 had high enrollments. Years 3 and 4 began to taper off. I mean, as you met that requirement. I believe at this point there's only 2 UW system schools, UW-Madison and UW-Eau Claire, who have maintained that language requirement. So what we're not seeing from the university anymore is for kids who are interested in going to college, hey, you guys, you need 2 years of language. We don't see that demand put on it anymore. Also, what we have done, as a school system here in Mukwonago, going back to when the high school opened up and then, into the middle schools, we've expanded the CTE program substantially. Our number of course offerings. So we offered more courses, we offered more options to students, and at the same time, we didn't add an exponential number of kids to our district. We put 25 new classes in, and I'm just grabbing at that number, 25 new classes, but we didn't throw 500 students on top of that to fill those classes. It really became down to choice. So what you saw tonight in the numbers is what kids have chosen over time. Can appreciate where the folks who are advocating for German come from, but this is the second time that this particular topic has been in front of the board to consider. The first time was in 2022 at a learning committee meeting. It went back and forth with the board at that time. The decision was made to maintain German. I'm looking at Stephanie for a little bit of information if we need it, but maintain German at both the middle school and the high school, and see where the numbers take us. And over that period of time, the numbers have not grown in these particular subjects, or this particular subject area. When you get into the dollars and cents and the budgets of it, one of our recommendations is, to maintain, we can debate the status quo or not the status quo, but build, plan measurements and metrics to try to grow the program. But at the end of the day, it's what are the kids choosing? So we can pique interest in the school, we can maintain this, and we can save it. It's not going to come down to a major budgetary piece for us at this particular time. But if numbers continue to go down, is it this year? Is it next year? If we don't have students take German 4 and 5, and those section numbers go below what is that one equivalent FTE in the teaching position, then what do we have to do, and what do we have to adjust in that teaching position? Because that does become part of how you go about these lower enrollment courses, programs, whatever it might be.
Crosby?
How are other districts able to offer more languages?
Without studying the full course, I would venture to guess, and this is a guess but an educated guess, that they have fewer other elective options for students. So as I mentioned before, CTE is very high. They have more students enrolling in language courses than other schools. Some school districts have used alternate methods too to deliver other languages, particularly at the middle school. Computer-based instruction where kids can access the language and the instruction through computer. They can be supervised by an adult, but it might not be by a world language teacher who's overseeing that on site.
I have another question.
Go ahead.
What is the difference between Intro to German and German 1 at the middle school?
So I'll start off by saying Intro to German was only created as of last year. That was a proposed course that I made last year and was approved. So Spanish, in terms of Spanish, it's always been WALIX, Intro to Spanish, and Spanish 1. The intro class is kind of that bridge between the exploratory and that high school level course. We understand that not all middle schoolers are ready for that high school intensive, so we still offer them an opportunity to take a language that they're interested in after 7th grade. So it's kind of like that next step in their language, but again, not quite ready for that high school elective. It sets them up to be better prepared for level 1 then when they are freshmen at MHS. So German, like I said, didn't have that when I came, so I proposed that last year, and this is the second year that Intro is running for German.
They also earn a credit in German 1, whereas they don't earn any credit in Intro to German.
Any other questions?
Yes, please. Excuse me. Dr. Cook, earlier you mentioned the budget part of it. If I understood you correctly, we are not in a super crunch for the budgetary part of this right now. If we wanted to give a chance for some clubs to form and give it another year or so, it wouldn't be a huge hit to us.
We
correct?
certainly, we absolutely do not need to do this. This is an option that we can take. We don't need to do it now. The caveat to that is if the numbers don't start to rebound, then that has to be the step that we take in order to put it in a singular location to start. I mean, we are a school system. We have 5,000 students in our district. We have almost 1,600 student high school. We would want to offer 2 languages at our high school as an option for our students. But we also have to have the kids in the seats supporting the program. I mean, that's ultimately where that driver comes. So could we wait a year? Could we wait 2 years? We can certainly do that, but we need to see the enrollment maintain and grow over time so that we can support the FTE that we have allocated to the program right now.
Stephanie.
With the number of people that have emailed and come in person, I hope the clubs, maybe there's a club going. I hope that the club can grab some momentum with this, because I got to tell you, the people that were like, "Hey, why you cutting out German?" That was never our intent, but which is horrible information. But it is what it is. But you hope that we can grab some momentum and run with it.
What other languages would we consider offering if we decided down the road to eliminate German?
I think we'd have to get to a place where we started to survey our elementary families to see what languages they would be interested in seeing their children have access to. As was mentioned, their French, German, Spanish are very common in schools. Mandarin is being added in
Like
to
the
schools.
oranges?
Yep, like the oranges. Yep. Mandarin is being added in to schools in the area. But there's a demand, there's a request, for those languages. It's coming from families. So certainly a step we could take if the German numbers did not rebound over time. That is certainly a step we could take. We could begin to survey the elementary families, ask them what their preference is, what they'd like to see middle and high school.
I would like to see that.
What are some of the barriers that we're finding as to why students are not electing to take German 4 and German 5? Because that's where we see the really big drop off. And if we look at the numbers, there was a little bit of a rebound this year, but then it just really drops off in 4 and 5.
I think if you look similarly at Spanish, it's that conversation that we had, before, just about what are the universities requiring, and historically what has happened in, 3, 4, and 5, Spanish, German, French, whatever it might be. You see a natural drop off after those 2 years of language are met. So for students right now that are interested in going to UW-Eau Claire, UW-Madison, I think those are the two state schools. Some other schools out of state, they would still be saying you need to have 2 years of language. And so you see that freshman, sophomore year, where both the numbers are higher in German and they're higher in Spanish, but then they drop off as you get into those higher level courses, just based off of what is the actual student investment. It does take quite a bit of ambition and drive to get to that level 4, level 5 in a language, to take that chance to take the AP test, to go on and get a minor or a major in German in college. That's a big student load that kids are taking, and oftentimes, and this has been historic beyond what we have on the charts, 3 and 4 were just lower, 3, 4, 5 were just lower enrollment courses over history.
Any other questions? Eric?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously we heard a lot of support for this program, both in person and online. We just passed the middle school, right? We're gonna bring 6th grade in the middle school. Can we reach out to that 6th grade class and start bringing them into the Whirlix or that? Club. Yes. So can we get that involved? And what would our metrics look like if we started getting involved in 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, and start rolling it back so that maybe the seniors who don't want to do German 5 because they want to leave early or, anything like that, maybe they have an opportunity to German 5 as a junior.
Yeah, we can put together a survey, after the holiday break here, and begin to survey our 4th, 5th, and 6th grade families as to what languages they'd like to see, and then monitor that, over a year or two to see what does that enrollment look like. I mean, our 6th graders are going to be picking their 7th grade classes coming up pretty soon. Our 5th graders will be right on the horizon. That's before the middle school is done. And we can see if that interest equates to enrollment, which equates to then enrollment after the 3rd Friday count over the next year, 2 years in school. See what happens in that regard.
Yeah, I think definitely we do something like that just to get some metrics. Before we make a decision, it sounds like we have a very good program, love teachers, just from the kids that showed up. Usually kids don't show up to these, right? I mean, I'd hate to see us, just kind of cut it and then have to put money in towards it later on. I think that's going to be the opposite of what we try to do, right?
Yep, we don't want to create a problem that we can't solve in the future, absolutely. But again, I mean, going back to, all of the courses, subject areas that we touched on tonight, we do have areas, both German is one, but other subject areas and other disciplines where we have low enrollment. And our plan going into next school year with those classes is some are discontinued, some we will combine, the entry level class with the next level class. Some we have the option of doing Start College Now, early college credit programs where kids can go to UW-Whitewater, Carroll University, one of the technical colleges to get that same learning experience if we can't offer that class, in Mukwonago.
And then as far as the CTE stuff, are we polling people to find out why they're doing the first one but not the second one? Why are they not coming back? What are they not seeing, or what are they not liking?
Again, I mean, we offer a tremendous amount of courses, and that is a good thing. It gives kids an opportunity to take, family and consumer education. They can go into technology education. They can take world language, they can explore music, they can take additional PE classes. All of those things are options that we provide, and I think what we're finding is a lot of students are leaving here with, they've gone to the buffet, right? They haven't ordered necessarily the full, 3-course meal, but they've really sampled a lot of classes, and I think that that's what we see. We might take autos 1, but we're not gonna go to autos 2. We might take the woods class then the next year. I think that there's a lot of interest in a lot of areas, and I think kids are exploring that.
And then just promise this is the last part. With the new middle school also, we're going to gain some more CTE space, right?
We'll have CTE space at the middle school. Yes, right now we're looking at the current saved renovated space as being a large CTE, family and consumer ed, art area in the building, and then building in where we have world language space, and then classroom, core academic type classroom areas. Yes.
Sure. So maybe if we grab the kids early, get them into the woodworking or the building trades or the auto mechanics or just the basics, maybe we can get those numbers up in the second levels.
Yep. But again, we are working with a finite number of students, and that's the piece. We love to be in a position to grow. We have a lot of options that would draw families here, and we have a lot of interest in our school district. But kids need to enroll in those classes, and at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to, and that's the decision, the discussion that our teachers, our school counselors, parents, and children are having as they pick those classes from year to year.
Jake?
Have we ever done surveys in the past with elementary school families regarding, this is kind of going back to the German, regarding language preferences for class offerings?
I don't want to claim the new guy card in my second year, but I'm going to have to
Yeah,
ask Stephanie if we've ever.
The last 5 years, no.
Okay. So just wondering if we would have any sort of baseline or comparator, right, to see if things have changed, which direction things are going. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think the comparison would be what we hear, what actually shows up, and then looking at that in comparison to the trends that we've had over the last 5-6 years.
Yep. And then one other question, Stephanie. So I see 24% of courses not running at 75% of capacity or above. What would you say the average is kind of across the board?
The average capacity?
Capacity utilization.
That's a tough question. We ran the numbers of what was running at 75% or below. I would say most are sitting above 85, wouldn't you? I'm kind of remembering that spreadsheet.
85-ish.
I'm trying to think.
And what do we use as a target?
So 75% is our target, and that's we want to see above 75% capacity.
Are you looking at what number of kids in a class is the?
Just percent utilization.
Okay.
Yeah, 75% is our target, and that's simply a result of, again, we know we're going to have kids who do have course changes. We also have space limitations. We have, I'm thinking of some of our lab classes. So we aim for 75%. That's generally a good target.
Okay, thank you.
So Stephanie, the CTE, they have won a lot of awards lately, and they are earning, not badges, they're earning, what is the term? They earn
industry certified credentials.
Yep.
Say it again, please, Tom.
Industry certified credentials.
Right. So as the more CTE runs hard, and these kids are getting these certificates, I can see it taken away from a lot of other electives. Correct?
Students need to make a choice,
Yeah.
right? And so
Yeah.
our big thing
Yep.
is that we want to get students in the classes they need to be successful for their future. And that really depends on their future path. So we need to have conversations with the students, and we need students and the parents to understand. If you want to go to a 4-year college and be an engineering major, it's probably not a good idea to not take AP science courses. It's not a good decision. It may be fun to take another class, but probably not a good decision. On the other hand, if you're going to head straight into a career in welding, not sure it makes a great deal of sense that you take AP Chem instead of a welding class. So we want them to get in the right place for them. And that's with discussions.
I think it's important for us, though. Brooke, if I could just highlight her experience with a 40-credit language bump when she got to college. That does happen, and kids need to understand that as well, as Stephanie was talking about 4-year college university experience. 40 credits is your first 2 years of school that you could be made up in the language area, and that can either count towards a major, minor, or elective credits at the university, and making sure that kids understand that component of it as well as they pursue upper level language.
I'm just glad you're here because not only it's great to see you, but I remember you presenting this in 22, and I don't recall if I was on the board by then or not, but I remember the low numbers you were presenting the low numbers to the board. Were there any plans after that, or what did you see after you presented that to the board?
I think the last time that we talked about this, we had a great deal of instability in the staffing at the German level, and it came because we were concerned about staffing moving forward and finding quality German teachers to help us continue a program. So that was definitely part of the conversation. We did find 2 teachers who want to stay with us. And so, yeah, I think the thought at that time was let's see what happens with some stability in staffing, because we felt like that had a lot to do at the time with the numbers declining. Yeah.
Do we ever look at putting foreign language into elementary schools, like introducing it or offering it?
We haven't discussed it. I am familiar with models where it has been put in. We do currently have Spanish at Eagleville that was brought in there 2 or 3 years ago, if I'm remembering correctly, or longer than that. We are currently instructing that through an online platform, as we were not able to find a Spanish teacher to work at 25%. So we do have it through an online platform right now.
Okay.
We do have a staff person, just not a certified staff
correct.
person.
Okay. Is that something we can possibly look into, maybe survey or possibly look into?
Yep, if we can start with that 4th, 5th, 6th grade survey to see what would generate the middle school, we could also then, going into the summer months, send a survey to families at the elementary to see what they would like to see in an elementary program. And what does that need to look like for elementary age kids?
Okay. Hey, Brooke, you want to help with this? Thank you. Appreciate it.
I think you've been volunteering.
I'd just like to make one last comment. I'd also like to see a plan from the teachers. They said they're working on a plan to get the numbers up. If you could do that and present it to the board, that would be great. Joe, what would be a good time for a timing standpoint?
I think it would be fair, if we give the teachers some time to work on it, we will go through the enrollment process at the high school, February timeline, I think it is.
February 11th.
So if we were to be looking with, asking the German teachers to come back sometime April or May to talk about what that plan of improvement is. If the general feeling that I'm sensing right now is that we would maintain German at middle school and high school this evening, we would go forward and survey and develop to see what the level of interest is into the future. At that time, we could then see what the plan would be from the German staff as to how to go about promoting and developing a higher level of interest in German, and then
Yes.
take a look at the impact of all. So if April, May would be okay, we could have them come back then.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
All right. Amber, are you there?
Yep. Is everyone able to hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Perfect.
Right.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Amber Ebert from Hawkins Ash CPAs, and I'll be going through the 6/30/24 financials. I'll just kind of flip through the pages and discuss some things worth mentioning.
So Amber, I'm just gonna just let everyone know that we have a limited number of actual physical audit reports available. So there's one at each board member's table. This has also been posted to our board agenda tonight. So anybody who's watching from home has that. But feel free to just go from there, Amber. Thank you.
Okay. So I'll start on page 3. This is the independent auditor's report. This is just stating that we issued an unmodified audit opinion, which is the best opinion that can be achieved for an audit. So that's just some pretty standard language, pages 3 through 5. pages
me.
6 through
Excuse me
14,
one
this is
second.
the
Tom?
management.
Amber, I'm sorry, Amber, 1 second there. Go ahead, Dale.
Is there a way of getting that on the screen?
Okay, so yeah, Amber, I'm going to bring this up, share this on my screen, and then
Thank
I'm
you.
going to follow along
Okay.
as best I can here. Just give me 1 second here, if you don't mind, Amber. All right, bear with me here. All right, Amber, so I am now sharing it with you. You can see what page we're on, and then you want to go to page 3, and we're using the pages at the number of like page 3
Yeah,
here,
at the
correct?
bottom.
Okay,
Yep.
yep. Just tell me what section you're speaking to, and I'll get to it.
Okay. Yep. So page 3, this is the independent auditor's report. Just some standard language that we follow, and it's just saying that we issued an unmodified audit opinion, which is the best opinion. So we'll flip to page 6 now. So pages 6 through 14 are the management's discussion and analysis section. So this is pretty much just a short synopsis of the entire financial, just in broad categories. But I'll get into a little more detail so we can skip these pages. So we'll move along to page 15.
Okay.
So this is the government-wide statements. These are basically the same as the fund statements, which we'll show a little later, except they also include the capital assets, the debt, WRS, and any other post-employment benefits. So in general, just a couple things to note this year. The Wisconsin retirement system pension had a pretty significant large decrease this year of about 13 million. This is just, it was for both the deferred outflows and deferred inflows. This is mostly because WRS is still a liability. However, it did decrease or I guess you could say that liability decreased about 7 million, I believe it was. So that's kind of what caused the variance from last year to this year on the governmental activities statement.
So Amber, when you say that, we are, every time we run payroll here in our district every 2 weeks, about 6.5% of employees' earnings are deferred or sent to WRS. The district matches the other 6.5%. And then that districts throughout the state, public employees in the WRS system are ultimately contributing into a pension fund. And that cumulative liability, Mukwonago owns a piece of that liability, and that's ultimately what you're referring to right now, correct?
Correct, yes.
Right. So there's really not a lot of things that we can, as a district are doing, right? We make the standard deductions from employees' paychecks. We match our district share of that, and then our auditors ultimately render an opinion based on that. If more money is ultimately needed, WRS will increase the percentage that the employer and the employee is ultimately responsible for. Amber, am I safe in saying that?
Yeah, that sounds correct.
Okay,
yep.
Thank you.
So page 16 would be the income statement for the government-wide. So this just shows that there was an increase in net position this year of about 10 million compared to last year. So last year, the ending fund balance or ending net position was about 87 million, and this year we're sitting at about 97 million. Page 17, this is where the balance sheet for the governmental funds start.
And so just to make sure, Amber, when you refer to governmental funds, that's all of our funds except for Fund 73, which is regarded as a trust fund, correct?
Correct, yep.
Okay. So you'll find basically all of our funds will be summarized on the following pages, with the exception of Fund 73, which is explicitly a trust fund. Go ahead, Amber.
So I'll start with the general fund. So this year, if we want to skip to, I guess, page 18, that'll kind of show the income statement. So the net change in the general fund, which this also includes the special education fund, the fund balance increased about 2.5 million this year. And just kind of looking around at the detail, the property taxes increased about 5 million. Total instruction for expenditures increased about 2 million. Overall, the total expenditures and total revenue increased 5 million. However, the net transfer, that amount decreased pretty close to 3 million, which is what caused the increase in fund balance this year.
So I'm just going to expand upon that. If you're looking at the bottom of page 18, the leftmost column with numbers in it is Fund 10. And towards the very bottom, you'll see a value that says net change in fund balance, which is $2.477 million. And that value ultimately, I think, summarizes our general fund and our position of increasing fund balance in Fund 10 by almost $2.5 million. And that's a number I've explained and shared with you in the months since we closed our books. So I think in a snapshot of our district's financial health, and Amber, please refute this or support it. To me, it says that we brought in more money than we spent. Some of that money was, one time in nature. The expiration of COVID funds and ESSER funding is now gone. We put ourselves in a position where last year interest income was high. We had high rates of interest rate returns on our deposits. Those aren't going to be with us forever. Interest rates come and go. So when those interest income falls, we don't have to stress out and find things to cut to counteract that falling revenue level. Ultimately, I feel that we had a very strong fiscal year in 23-24 as demonstrated right there. But Amber, am I correct in saying those things?
I absolutely agree with that. This is probably one of the largest general fund increases I have seen of the districts that I audit. So this is very great improvement to see.
I just want to add one other thing that we, at the end of every fiscal year in the month of June or July, we can transfer some of that money that's in Fund 10 and say, let's set this money aside for future building needs, and we transfer that to Fund 46. Every year when I talk about tertiary aid, and I get laughed at a little bit for that stuff, we are a negatively aided tertiary district, so when we spend to a certain threshold, we start to reduce our general aid and therefore increase the burden of property taxes. We didn't transfer that $2.477 million out of Fund 10 and into Fund 46 because the movement of the money from one account to another, it gets recognized as an expense at that time. So because it wasn't advantageous to our taxpayers, we did not do that transfer this past July. So you might recall that, you might not, and so I'm just bringing that back up here. But typically with that fund balance that we left behind in Fund 10, we would move that, but we didn't last year. Okay? All right, Amber.
So the next fund is the debt
Amber,
service
can you
fund
hold on
for
one
the
second? We got a
referendum
question from one of
approved.
your board members. Craig, go ahead, please.
Amber, can you hear me?
So this one,
Hold on, Amber.
the fund
I'll
balance
relay.
decreased.
Amber, hold on one second here. Okay, sorry, I'll relay some questions to you as they come up, but we're good right now. Amber, please go ahead.
Okay. So the referendum debt service fund, fund balance decreased about 5.5 million compared to last year. This was pretty much strictly due to the cash defeasance of paying debt off early. So a large portion of the debt was moved to a debt escrow account to pay it off. So that was kind of what caused the main decrease in this fund.
Sure, and I think our board members would recall that we spent approximately almost $10 million in prepaying debt, 3 years worth of debt this past May. So the fund balance we had available was reduced because we used it for its purpose.
The next fund is the long-term capital improvement fund. So overall, this fund decreased roughly 1.1 million. And this was because expenditures in the business services column were up about 1.2 million this year.
That was the purchase of the SOAR building. So that we paid for that in Fund 46, and that's what this fund is right here. So yet we spent money there as planned. Go ahead,
And
Amber.
then the next column is the total non-major governmental funds. So this would be all of the funds that are shown in the back of the financials. So overall, all of these, if you want to call them smaller funds, they increased about 225,000 this year.
So that would be our donation fund, which is Fund 21, Fund 41, Food Service Fund, Fund 50, Fund 80, which is the fund that pays for our school resource officers. It's basically everything else went up 225,000, which is a lot of money, right? And as a percentage of our total budget, it's a very, very small percentage. So we're good there.
And then one last thing to comment on is we like to look at the total expenditures compared to the fund balance. So when we do that with the general fund, the district is sitting at roughly 33%, and we suggest about 20% minimum, which would mean if anything were to happen financially, that there would be about 2 months worth of, I guess, savings set aside for any typical expenses. So you're sitting at 33%, so that's great to see. That's much higher than we suggest. I would say most of our districts average between like 15 and 35% for this. And then we also look at the total instruction expenses compared to the overall expenses. And you're sitting at 54.1%, and most of our districts are around 54 to 63%. So right in the middle of that as well.
So just to reiterate, our fund balance position is 33%. We have 33% of fund balance available relative to the amount of expenditures we had last year. So if funding were to completely stop, we could fund our way through 33% of annual expenses, which is a good number to have. And Amber said also that when we code all of our expenditures, we code things to instruction or to transportation. You know, everything has like what was the function it supported. From instruction, was it utilities and heat? Was it maintaining a new roof? Was it a bus route? We specifically look at how much are we spending in the classroom, and 54% of all of our funds are in that. So that's, again, within the range of what you'll find in other Wisconsin school districts. Okay, back to you, Amber.
Okay, so we can skip ahead to page 20. This is where it'll show the Employment Benefit Trust Fund.
So this is Fund 73. This is the one non-governmental fund. So this is our trust fund that pays for other employee post benefits.
So if we want to scroll to page 21, you can see that this fund increased about 180,000 this year.
Again, we have an actuary measure our liabilities relative to the assets that we have, which these are the assets here, the just over $6 million value. And we found that we are fully funded. So we have liabilities we're responsible for, and we have saved to pay those liabilities without making that a future burden on another school board. We've made promises, and we've set the money aside for those.
So we can scroll ahead to page 22. So pages 22 through 44 are all of the financial statement notes. So pretty much any supporting detail for what we just looked at with the statements. So the first, up until page 26, this is all just standard template wording, just kind of explaining what each line item on the financial is as a broad overview. Page 27 just goes through the cash and investment section. Page 28 near the top, there is the district had about 38 million in cash. 35 is protected with collateral, and then about 1.5 million is uninsured or uncollateralized. nothing to really worry about there. 28, this just shows the capital assets for the year. So you can see about 1.2 million were added for the year.
I'm sorry,
Page
Amber,
29.
Amber, what page are you on?
Yep, 29.
Okay.
So the top half would be our SBITA, which is a new governmental standard that came out last year. So this is basically just any software technology that the district has, and we only have to record it if it's above a certain amount. So, for example, it could be any financial software if it's more than a year. So the district has about 110,000 of SBITA assets for the year. The bottom of this page starts the long-term debt. So you can see about 12.8 million was paid off of bonds. This was due to the prepayment and then a few other payments here and there. And then you can see also the WRS decreased the 7 million, and then the OPEB healthcare decreased roughly 300,000 for the year.
So Amber, as we take out bonds for our new middle school project sometime next year, and in 2026, we would expect our long-term obligations here would significantly increase, correct?
Correct, yep. Page 30 just kind of shows the remaining debt and then also the payment plan currently. And then, as I mentioned, there was a cash defeasance this year for the 9.9 million. This allowed for an economic gain of about 2.3 million and a reduction of a little over 11 million in future debt service payments. So it was a great decision to make to pay the debt off early. Right at the bottom of page 30, this starts the WRS section. This is, again, just standard template that the WRS would like us to share in every financial. And then we just update a few numbers here and there relevant to each district. Page 35 starts the supplemental pension verbiage. Again, just some standard wording. This pension is fully funded. So this is actually sitting at an asset.
So when we talk about supplemental pension, the standard pension is the WRS. The supplemental pension is our Fund 73 OPEB benefit, where the district is making a choice to make this a part of the teacher compensation package. So when we call it a supplemental pension, it's in addition to WRS.
Then in the middle of page 38, this just shows the interfund transactions. So this would be like the transfer to long-term capital improvement, or there's also the employee benefit trust.
So we did make a small transfer to Fund 46 during the course of the year for 30,000, and then we transferred 433,000 from Fund 10 to Fund 73 to continue to maintain our fully funded status there.
And then the bottom of this page starts the OPEB benefit. Again, just some standard wording. This one is a liability, but it went down roughly 300,000 this year. And then page 43, this just shows the fund balance and net position for anything that's restricted. So you can kind of see where some of the fund balance is going and what it's going to be used for. And this can be changed based on board approval. If you want to maybe set some money aside in the general fund for XYZ, you're definitely more than able to, but this is just where everything is sitting as of year end.
So when we have fund balance available, some of those funds are restricted. They're set aside for a certain purpose. So if you take a look at the very first one for self-insurance, there's $1.282 million. Those dollars are set aside to pay for eventual, as we became a self-insured health district, those funds are set aside to pay for eventual claims that will come and that those funds will be needed. So certain funds are earmarked and designated for specific reasons, and this spells that out.
And then if we want to switch to page 44, this is the end of the notes, but this just shows the self-funded insurance. So the health benefit plan started July 1st of 2023, and the ending liability is roughly sitting around a little under 1.3 million. So that just kind of shows the expected liability for both the health and the dental. And then at the bottom, I just have the subsequent event comment about the referendum being passed for the 89 million for future use. If you want to go move on to page 45, this is the budget to actual statement. So this year, in the total expenditures row, you can see in the last column that there was a negative. So we did have to issue a finding this year, but the way the state looks at it, they look at only total expenditures. But if you include the transfers as well, you can see there's about 1.1 million of transfers and only 491,000 of expenditures. So overall, they cover each other, but the state just looks at the expenditures.
So Amber, I'm going to just take an opportunity just to talk about that with the board here and the public right now. So, you know, we pride ourselves on not having any findings when we have an audit, and there's one that Amber's bringing up right now. When we adopted our final budget last year, we had a budget of $64 million that you gave me the authority to move forward and operate the school district in Fund 10 at that value, and ultimately we spent 63.5. So in my view and how I looked at that, I said, hey, we're $500,000 under budget. What Amber and the auditors had looked at, and this is where I had learned, and this was news to me, is that they will remove, they'll look at the Fund 10 expenditures, but remove transfers from Fund 10 to Fund 27 or to any other fund and say, what true Fund 10 expenditures are there? And that was about $57 million, and we were 0.8% over. So in that sense, the auditor said, well, that's a finding. You spent more than the board allowed by that measure. So this is the time to bring that up and discuss that. And yeah,
kind of ticky-tacky, my opinion, but okay.
You know, had I known what I know now then, I would have asked the school board to say, hey, we are very close to the number that we aimed at, right? Can we pass a budget amendment to recognize a couple areas, be it individual transportation or whatever the explanation is for why did we go over? I'll provide the explanation. Then I ask, can we just increase the spending authority slightly more to recognize that? I think, and Amber, you can tell me how often is it, how common is it for other school districts to pass a budget amendment late in the school year?
Yeah, we see quite a few budget amendments done, especially even near the year end too. They're just, some like to only do maybe one in the beginning of the year and one at the end. Others do, I mean, really at any point throughout the year as needed. Yeah. Okay.
So that's something that we've never done. We've set our targets and we didn't adjust them, but there will be times when we incur an additional expense along the school year, such as a new well that needs to be installed at Rolling Hills Elementary, for example. So we have budget things that we never could have guessed about in October when we adopted. And when you aggregate those over the course of a school year, you may need to adjust your budget. Okay, Amber.
We'll move ahead to page 47. So this is just kind of the WRS expense, or the WRS pension over the last 10 years. So if you look in the proportionate share of net pension liability asset column, you can see it just kind of flip-flops every year between an asset and a liability. So a couple years ago it was an asset, now it's back down to a liability. Based on how much it's been decreasing this year, I wouldn't be surprised to see it as an asset next year, but of course, it's hard to say. And we do report a year behind. So this is actually as of 12/31/23 year end, as the 2024 reports will not come out until September of 2025. So that is, everything is kind of reported a year behind.
So
And then the
if WRS in Madison were for all the school district and all the police department and all the municipal employees that have a claim in a WRS, if they wanted everybody to pay up to make it 100% funded, this is what that's referring to. Some years we might owe money to make us whole. Some years they might give money back to say you've paid in too much based on your share of the liability. Is that what we're saying here, Amber?
Yes, yep.
Okay. So this really is something that we can't control. There's actuaries that will evaluate this very, very large public pension plan, which is one of the best funded pension plans, public pension plans, I should say. And that position changes each year, but we're not really in control of this.
And then pages 48 and 49, these are just, again, some more details on the last 10 years on what percentages were used and whatnot. Page 50, this shows the supplemental pension schedule for the last 8 or 9 years. So you can kind of see this one has also now been an asset the last several years as it's been fully funded. And then page 51 is the OPEB healthcare. And this one, you can see is sitting at a liability of about $964,000, but again, it has decreased from last year. So pages 52 and 53, these are the non-major funds. So if you want to look at page 53, this will show the overall fund balance. So the Special Revenue Trust Fund, this increased about $56,000 from last year. And looking at the details, the other local sources line was up about $75,000 this year, which is kind of what caused the increase. The food service is down about $218,000 this year. This was due to the federal sources, so any federal grants. The COVID funding has ended, so that is kind of what caused the decrease there. The community service is down just $1,300. Really nothing really stuck out to me. Everything was fairly comparable to last year. And then the capital project fund, capital expansion, this one was up $388,000. Last year there was about $756,000 of capital outlay, and this year there is none. So that was a big part of the change there. Page 55, this shows all of the federal awards received and the expenditures. So overall, there's about $4.6 million of federal expenditures spent during the 23-24 school year. And then there's also some sitting as unearned revenue. So it was spent, but just not received yet, about 1.7 million of that. So that'll be reported on next year's financial. And then page 56 is the state awards. So there's about 34 million of state awards spent for the year. And then we'll skip along to page 58 through 59. This is the compliance and other matters report on the government auditing standards. So we found one finding, which was a significant deficiency, which is the lower of the findings that there can be. And this was just for the preparation of financial statements. This is one that the district gets every year, along with every single one of our districts that we do. So nothing to worry about there.
So again, I'm going to just explain that very quickly. We have two audit findings. We addressed one earlier. The first one is that we do not make our own audit statements. So what you're holding tonight, Linda Scafidi is our district accountant, and myself, between the two of us, we're not capable of making that. We outsource this to Hawkins Ash CPAs, and they produce that. That's considered a finding. We've had that since the beginning of time. And it's really, as I said in my Friday email to you, it's much to do about nothing, in my opinion. Go ahead, Amber.
And then pages 60 through 62, this is the report for the single audit and the state awards. So there were no findings on this one. Everything looked great regarding the federal and state awards. And then pages 63 through 65 is just the schedule of findings and question costs related to both the financial and the federal and state awards. So like I mentioned, there was just one significant deficiency, which was the preparation of financial statements. And then it mentions what the major programs were for the federal and state awards, which is what we are required to test during the audit. And then there was just one of the compliance and other matters finding, which was the budget finding. But those were the only two findings for the district. And then the very last page is just the showing the prior year findings and then the corrective action plan for correcting the findings that we had.
So Amber, I guess I'll ask a question on behalf of the school board here, and they haven't asked that, but if I was them, I would ask this, that they put a lot of trust into me to manage the money of the school district. Based on everything that you looked at, is there anything that doesn't look good that needs to be said right now?
Absolutely not. Nope. Everything looked great. No concerns on our end.
All right. Is there anything you really think the school board should know about what you've reviewed over the 23-24 school year, other than things we've covered already?
I think that there's no concerns. Everything looks great. This is probably one of our cleanest districts that we do audit. So yeah, I mean, everything looks great. The numbers look great. Nothing to worry about.
I do want to give credit to Linda Scafidi, our district accountant. Sometimes she watches these meetings. I don't know why, but she does. And I give her a lot of credit. So when you say that this is one of the cleanest audits, Linda's been here for over 2 decades, and she runs a very, very tight ship, which my colleagues who I work with day to day can attest. There's rules, and Linda's there to enforce them, and that's what she is there to do. She does a great job, so I give Linda a lot of credit for what Amber just said. Thanks, Linda.
Tom, question for Amber.
Yes.
How many school districts have their liabilities fully funded that she works with?
Amber, did you hear that question, or do you want me to repeat it?
Yep, I heard it. So we audit, my firm audits 19 school districts on the east side of the state. I think Mukwonago is the only one that I audit, and I do 10 of them. And I think we maybe have one more that's fully funded. Otherwise, yeah, the rest are all sitting at a liability.
Great job, Tom. Thank you.
All right. Amber, is there board, is there any questions that we want to ask right now? If not, Amber's always available with questions you might have if you think.
Great job, Amber. Is there a page 68?
There is not.
Thank you, Amber. Great job.
All right. Amber, is there anything else, or are we okay?
Nope, that's all I had.
Okay, great. Thank you, Amber. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. All right, up next we have Prairie View. What? Oh, Sherilyn.
When we had the discussion on enrollment trends, staffing, and scheduling, unless I missed it, we did not go over the draft of the class size policy, and I want to make sure that we do review that. So if that's something that we need to take action on, it's been reviewed.
The policy is in the presentation. We are going to be bringing that back to the committee of the whole in January for the board to look at under policy. And we gave it to you a month early so that you can take a look at it, put your eyes on what we're proposing.
Okay, so it's
not up for vote tonight, not up for vote at the COW in January, but we'll go COW and then board meeting in January.
Okay, that's it.
For what it's worth, I did ask Amber to be brief. All right.
All right, welcome, Val.
I'll do my best to
Hi,
be
Val.
brief now. Here we are.
Val, do you
8
have 64,
PM.
do you have 64 pages?
No, I do not
Thank
have
you.
64 pages. I think four pages.
You have
Thank
3
you for
minutes.
having me tonight. Do you want me to click, Tom? Or do you
Yeah,
wanna
just give me a second.
them
I think
through?
I closed your presentation. School goals, correct?
Correct, that is it. Oh, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, I will begin. The students always steal the show. They're always the best part of this. Yeah, they had practiced a lot, and we're really excited to be here. They were honored to be here. So thank you for inviting them. I wanted to start with this slide, just reviewing our mission and vision statement at Prairie View, as it really grounds us in the work that we do each and every day, and the decisions that we make. So our mission statement had been developed in conjunction with the entire staff, and the guiding coalition at Prairie View had led that work last year. But it is to ensure high levels of academic, social, and emotional learning for all, and really answers the question, why do we exist as a school? And so that led into the mission in your pocket day that students had done this year. And our vision statement is kind of the future that we're hoping to create for all of our students at Prairie View. This is the same slide that was in the student presentation about You Belong, and our theme this year is You Belong, really focusing on belonging, knowing that when students and staff and us as adults feel as though we belong, academic success and achievement goes hand in hand with belonging. So this is a goal, or excuse me, our building theme for this year. We have 3 goals this year. 2 of them are focused on academics, our first goal being around math. There is our goal statement. These goals were all developed this summer in reviewing our data from last school year and school years prior in conjunction with my guiding coalition at Prairie View. So we came together. You've heard this from a couple of other principals, but our goal in our first goal is for math, that by the end of this year, 86.6% of Prairie View students in grades 1 through 6 will achieve college pathway or low risk as measured by FastBridge A-Math. So there's one piece of data that we have in there that led us to create this goal. And then some of the more important steps to me are less about the statement and more about what are we gonna do to make sure that we actually get there. So this year in math, we are utilizing a guaranteed and viable curriculum, implementing bridges in kindergarten through 5th grade, and then continuing with big ideas in 6th grade. Teachers have common planning time every week with their grade level team that centers around best practice, and math and data analysis this year has been a huge component of that common planning time with the implementation of the Bridges curriculum. Teachers in grades 4 and 5 had developed SLOs related to math. So again, when we look at the district key performance indicators, making sure our building goal is aligned with the district KPIs, and then the teachers' SLOs are in line with our building goal. So our data at Prairie View really spoke to an area of need in math, more so in the upper grades, and then fluency and ELA in the lower grades. The students had talked a little bit about the goal setting plans that we had created. So students, again, getting them to buy into the goal and getting them to know what we are all working towards. And then in addition to that, making sure that we are implementing bridges to fidelity. So my instructional coach and I have been focusing on a couple different components during trimester 1 and 2 so far when we're doing classroom walkthroughs. The second goal is unrelated to ELA, in particular oral reading fluency, so that 80% of students in grades kindergarten through 6 will meet or exceed proficiency as measured by an oral reading fluency assessment. We had provided by the district, kind of not knowing if we'd be using FastBridge or AIMSweb or what that would be throughout the year as Act 20 is being implemented. Again, some data that spoke to our why, and the what will we do to get there is some targeted instruction at the different grade levels with an intentional focus on fluency. We have established a vocabulary committee as well as is led by a staff, but there are students on that committee at Prairie View, and we've implemented a word of the week. And we start on Mondays and we tell the word and the definition, and then we go into antonyms and synonyms and antonyms, syllables, and the sounds that we hear in the word. That's shared over the announcements. There was a family in last week who hadn't been in a school in like 20 years, and they loved hearing all of that and being back at an elementary school to hear the announcements. But we do that over the announcements every day, and students from the vocabulary committee come down and say that over the announcements to the rest of the school. Just like we had spoken in math, the students in kindergarten through 3rd grade have SLOs that are related to, or excuse me, the teachers have SLOs that are related to literacy, and then the students have student goal setting templates that are related to literacy. And then our last goal is about our behaviors and seeing a reduction in our minor and major behavioral write-ups and data. So again, there is data from last year, which really speaks to what we're doing is working, but we want to see improvement, that the systems that we have in place at Prairie View, that 84% of students are responding positively and had received 0 or 1 discipline referrals. 12 students received 2 to 5. 3.2 received 6+. So again, I think it speaks to a lot of the great things that we have going on that we want to continue. A couple of things that we're continuing this year, jumping down to the bottom, are the buddy classes that the students had talked about. We are focusing on monthly character traits. We've done that in the past at Prairie View, but we are adding in like a staff component to those as well to make sure that staff is also focusing in on whatever that monthly character trait is that we're working on with students. We are implementing zones of regulation this year at Prairie View, Playworks implementation, and the junior coach program, and then teaching and reteaching our Panther Pride expectations at Prairie View. So those are our 3 goals. What questions do you have for me?
Any questions? What are zones of regulation?
Good question. Zones of regulation are taught in classrooms to help ensure that students can get in touch with kind of what their emotions are. And so if they're in the green zone, they're feeling ready to learn. They feel like their body's in control. If they're in the yellow zone, maybe they're feeling slightly frustrated. Maybe they're feeling tired. If they're in the red zone, they might not be making great choices. If they're in the blue zone, they might be more escalated as well. And so giving them then strategies to help identify that the zone that they're in and then work to getting back to that green zone, which is ideal for learning.
Thank you. Any other questions? We do not. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Val.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to Mukwonago High School fall activities and athletics. Mr. Trudell.
61 pages, Andy?
I was hoping for a 68th page on that presentation as well. You can call her back. Andy, just tell me when you want the next slide. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. First off, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Really like the You Belong wall at Prairie View Elementary. Awesome, and certainly something that kind of goes right into my presentation with our activities, our athletic offerings. We pride ourselves in having all different types of activities and things that kids get excited about and want to participate in and belong to, right? So starting with our activities this fall, first off, I think we've had just a fantastic fall at MHS. It's been so much fun to be a part of. Just highlighting a few of our activities, our SAVE group, actually it was, I had the date wrong initially. It was the first week in December they did their Nickel Wars, raising money for Make-A-Wish, and raised over $1,000 for that organization, which is awesome. We started a flag football program this year. The Green Bay Packers were offering monies to try to promote the sport of football to our female students, and we applied for a grant and were awarded that, and our girls are playing their first season this year. They play on Sundays at Muskego High School in their indoor training facility. They're having a great time. I think last I saw their record was 3-3. Girls are having a fantastic time. We have 2 high school boys coaching the team, and I think they're having just as much fun as the girls. Shout out to AJ Paul, one of our guidance counselors. He's helped to organize it, get the kids on the right page, set up practices, those types of things, and then the kids have run it themselves. And like I said, they're having a great time. And I think the playoffs start this coming week for the girls.
So Andy, we can't host any of those games. Is that correct?
Well, we could if we build an indoor training facility. At some point, we could certainly host those games, but currently, no.
Let's put that hosting thing on the schedule for next year, shall we?
I like it.
Thank you.
Continuing on with some music offerings, our marching band, if you attended any of our football games this year, you saw them perform at halftime. Their show, they took to state at UW-Whitewater and placed 4th. They received the top percussion award for the 3rd straight year, so the top percussion band in the state, which is excellent. Shout out to Emma Angeli, our director. Our musical, Les Mis, over 100 students participated in this from 7 of our schools, 25 staff members, and then they set records this year with their attendance, including one show where they had 869 tickets sold, which is incredible. And shout out on this one to our director, PJ Uhazi, and like I said, 25 other MASD staff members that helped out with that. On to athletics, Tom. Fall athletics, like I said, we've just had an amazing fall. Every one of our teams performed at just an incredibly high level, very competitive in everything. Starting with girls tennis, they placed 3rd in the conference, which was the highest since '98, and 2nd at sectionals, which ties their highest mark ever. And the last time they did that was 1999. We had 3 state qualifiers, led by Annie Wierzbicki as her 4th straight trip as a senior to the state tournament. Girls golf team finished 3rd at regionals. The top 4 teams out of 8 qualify for sectionals, which they did, and ended up placing 5th at the sectional. Some sports, the coaches associations do academic all-state. Golf was one of those, and we had 4 young ladies who qualified for that. Not only do they have to be excellent golfers, but obviously really good students as well. Boys soccer won 7 more games than they did a year ago, which is a great improvement. Coach Chano, in his 2nd year, has got that program trending in the right direction. Boys volleyball won the regional, qualified for sectionals, and had a nice record of 14-10 this year. Our football program and girls volleyball program had outstanding runs. Both made it to the state semifinals. For the football team, this is the 3rd semifinal finish in the last 4 years. So we've had 7 in the history of our school, and Coach G's led us to 3 out of the last 4, which is amazing. Mason Radabicki, Offensive Player of the Year in the conference. Girls volleyball, state semifinalists for the first time in school history. Morgan Funk, 1st-year coach, led our girls to the state semifinals, which was a lot of fun to go up to state and watch them win that quarterfinal game. Unfortunately, they ran into DSHA, who is an unbelievable girls volleyball program, and couldn't quite get past them, but to make it to the semifinals for the first time ever was awesome. Gabriella Pitzel was the Conference Player of the Year this year, also a nominee for Gatorade Player of the Year. She's a senior and will be playing next year at the University of Illinois. Both of our cross-country teams qualified for state this year, placing 2nd at the sectionals, which we hosted, which is awesome. Our cross-country course is a true blessing. Our kids are able to train there, and then we're able to host our annual invite every year. And this year we hosted the sectionals, and our kids were able to get out of there and qualify for state, with both teams placing 18th at the state meet. And finally, our girls swim. We had 3 girls qualify for state. The team finished 11th at state. Those three girls, Abby Antonuski, Ella Antonuski, and Brooke Hansen. Avery, I'm sorry. Avery was a state runner-up as a freshman in the 100 backstroke. And Ella was a state champion in both the 200 and 500 freestyle. She's won those 2 events 3 straight years. She's a junior. She's got 6 state championships under her belt. I talked to her. She told me that she would come to this next year to help me with this presentation after she wins 7 and 8. So conference swimmer of the year, great kid. She's number one rank in her class right now with a perfect 4.0. So fantastic swimmer and even better kid. And lastly, I'd just like to thank our coaches and advisors for creating these awesome opportunities for our kids, areas, again, where they feel like they belong and are excited at 2:45 when the school comes alive. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Coach, where's Vic? He's at 3:02 now. The count is on.
Yeah, he's climbing. I'm telling him he's got to get to 600, and then we'll talk about it.
Right. Thank you. Moving on to Parkview Middle School project update.
So just briefly, I don't have 2 pages. I just have a couple updates. Just to let the board know, we continue to meet on a bi-weekly basis, so every other week we get together. The pre-referendum drawing that we used was based off of a middle school in Oshkosh called Vel Phillips Middle School. It's a school that has about 900 students, or it was built for 900 students. Ours is being built for 1,200, but we're using concepts from that floor plan, the academic wing, and we're going about revising that so that we can accomplish the massive addition that we're doing to a very large space that's being renovated. We are currently working through the site survey and the traffic study. So 2 big components of the project to get things laid out. They need to know what the boundaries are of not only the property, but also where we plan on putting the building. We are doing this traffic study. We got a 90-some page traffic study today, but it didn't have the
We go through it real quick, Joe?
Nope, promise you we won't do that. We will wait for the recommendations to come in. And then as we go forward, the drawing and the floor plan is starting to come together to the point where we can start to present something during probably the February time, getting it to the board so you can see in a concept standpoint where we're at with the design. So updates, we did get a first formal update from the architects and the construction management. That is on our website under the referendum piece. So we'll be providing that to our community on our website as the project goes forward. That's it.
Carolyn?
I had a parent reach out and they said, what is the first class of 6th graders? So what grade are those kiddos now?
Third
That would
grade.
be this. So the current 3rd graders would be will be in the 6th grade.
Yep, they'll be the first class to get all 3 grade levels there.
Okay. Cool.
Yep.
Some of them are mad that they can't be the 6th grade kings of their school. They never get that title.
Oh.
They'll have to sell for a new building.
Be the
Spoken from a 3rd grade son, Tom? 4th grader.
Well, when he's in 5th grade, he'll be the king.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. Yep. Consent agenda, looking for the approval of the school board meeting minutes from November 18th, 2024, and approval of vouchers and receipts. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, those are approved by consent. Personnel topics, calendar.
All right, so last month we presented you with 2 drafts of a calendar, and we took those 2 drafts to our parent advisory, our teacher advisory, and again, our admin council, and we are back with a condensed version, 1 final draft that we are presenting. The highlights of this draft are that 1, we have 5 professional development days built in for staff, very different than previous years. 2, we've eliminated the early release days that we previously have had. Instead, we do have 1, October 29th is a common early release day for everybody to account for some daytime conference time for students and families. We have graduation occurring on June 7th. Thanks, Tom. Or sorry, yeah, graduation occurring on June 7th, with June 10th being the last day of school for students. That would be a full day of instruction, which is different than in previous years. And June 11th would be the last day of school for teachers. The spring break, we extended that to account for the Monday after Easter to have a off day. Families and teachers were really pretty adamant that that was a win for everybody, having that Monday off. And then the winter break, Tom, if you can scroll up, please. We were debating last month when we presented this to you, two options. One was the 22nd and the 23rd being school days. The feedback was a resounding, please don't make us come to school those days, especially not January 2nd. And so we did a full 2 weeks off. We are still well within our minute allocation that we need to comply with the Department of Public Instruction. And so again, this is our recommendation. We're not asking you to take any action on this tonight. We'll bring that back in January as an action item.
Talking with surrounding districts, I believe they're adopting similar calendars.
Yeah, we use all of the area school district calendars to make our recommendations. Spring break and winter break are ones that in Waukesha County especially, we try to align with one another because there's so much crossover. So, any questions?
I don't see any. Thank you.
Yep.
Student learning topics.
Okay, we have several topics tonight.
Can we have everybody talk in the microphones because there's some people watching that can't hear for some reason?
Sure.
That's
yeah.
okay. Thank you, Jill.
Is that better?
Yep.
Okay. So we have several topics. We'll try to move through them rapidly. The first one is that DPI released their accountability report cards in November. And so Ben is going to share some of the highlights of the report cards and some of the state data with you tonight.
I got your 68 pages, Craig. Right there. No, I'll go through quickly tonight. Tom, would you be able to bring up that presentation, please?
Ben, do you want to start with the DPI new report card discussion, or should we save it for later?
We're going to get into that tonight, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
Just real briefly, go to the one on the right, please. Thank you. And I don't know if you want to, there we go, perfect. So if you want to go to the next slide. So as Angela mentioned, in November, the DPI released the report cards. Prior to that, in October, they released the state assessment data. And there were some significant changes this year, primarily starting with the forward exam, where they realigned and designed that test to match newly released and revised Wisconsin state standards in math and English language arts. So that was kind of one of the big headline pieces. But along with that, they also made changes across all of the assessments in the Wisconsin State Assessment System to the proficiency benchmarks. And they did a couple of things with those proficiency benchmarks. First, they changed the descriptors that are actually used. They went from advanced, proficient, basic, below basic, to advanced, meeting, approaching, and developing, purportedly to make these easier for parents to understand where their child would be on those different performance descriptors. And then along with that, there's yet one more change, and that is that they changed what we call the cut scores for each of those performance levels. So essentially, what score did a student have to attain to be advanced, meeting, approaching, developing, and so on and so forth.
Okay, microphone, please, Ben.
My voice carries pretty well, so.
Not very well.
All right, thanks. Those cut scores for forward exam are impossible to measure from this year to the previous years because it was a new test, but we are able to see PreACT Secure and ACT cut score differences, and there is really no other way than saying that DPI lowered the bar for what students needed to attain in order to meet that advanced level, meeting level, so on and so forth. So a couple of big changes which lead to the report card conversations, which we'll get to in a minute. Go ahead, next slide, please. Just touching on some highlights from the state assessment release. The ACT is one of our big ones, and there were very, very little changes to the ACT. ACT keeps that a consistent test from year to year as it's a major college readiness assessment. In our high school, I'm excited to be able to say we gained from a 20.7 to a 21.4 average composite score, so a nice increase there. And I'm always looking for context. Not only how did we perform, but how did we perform compared to our neighboring and comparable school districts. And a lot of high schools in Waukesha County saw a decline, and in some cases, a pretty significant decline from 22-23 to 23-24. So that makes that 0.7 of a point composite improvement that much more significant for us. The other high school test that we administer for 9th and 10th graders is the PreACT Secure. Primarily, we're looking at the math and English language arts portion. And again, those are new cut scores, so you can't really compare them from one year to the next, but I can do an analysis of how other districts performed one year versus the other and see how we did relative to them. In math, we made relative gains against all of our comparable districts, and that would be Waukesha County High Schools, East Troy, Palmyra Eagle is what we're looking at. So we did better than, we grew, I guess, what I would say, more than other districts on the math side of things. And on the ELA side of things, we had relative gains against all but 3 other comparable districts. Forward exam, math and English language arts, I already mentioned that. Very difficult to make any comparisons due to the nature of the test changes. There were, I think we saw probably better performance on the math side of things than we did on the English language arts, which is one of the things that Michelle and Angela will touch upon here in a little bit. But one point I do want to highlight is that for the 2nd straight year, we were the highest performing K-12 Waukesha County district on the 3rd grade ELA portion of that assessment. That is an important one for us because it measures the success of our early literacy programming. There's also a lot of research that shows if kids are proficient by the end of 3rd grade on their English language arts performance, they will remain proficient throughout their academic career. So that is a point of pride for us. We are thrilled with that piece and certainly something to celebrate. Go ahead, Tom, if you would, please. So on to the report cards. And these, as you know, are required by state statute for every publicly funded school and district in Wisconsin. They consist of multiple data points. So they're looking back 3 years to generate these scores, and they're looking at the things that matter to us. How are our kids performing on our standardized assessments? Are we getting our kids to school? Are we graduating on them on time? If we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, we should do well on these report cards. Basically, there are 4 what they call priority areas that go into these report cards. Achievement, which is strictly how well do kids perform on forward exam, PreACT Secure, and ACT. Growth, which is how well are they growing in comparison to their peers, similar peers across the state of Wisconsin. So it's not just enough that we're attaining high achievement, but are we growing them faster than their peers? Target group outcomes, which is a mini report card, basically focused on our bottom 25% of learners. The idea being that we want to lift them up and pay special attention to our most struggling students. And then on track to graduation, which is focusing things like attendance, graduation rates, 3rd grade ELA, and 8th grade math. And then schools and districts receive one of 5 rating categories, going from significantly exceeds expectations on the top to meets few expectations on the bottom. Go ahead, Tom. So a couple of key points, as Craig alluded to, there were changes in the formulas that DPI used due to those proficiency changes on the report cards. Essentially, anything on the report card that was touched by achievement, DPI modified by that formula up there, and I quote, to bring this score into alignment with the 2022-23 report card achievement priority area score distribution. What does that mean? That means they took, DPI wanted to take the bell curve for achievement from 22-23 and kind of make this year's look the same in order to try and streamline those differences from one year to the next. That's why that formula then was used to modify those achievement scores. But districts and schools that earned a lower achievement score on the report card this year, due to that modification, simply kept their old score. So there's a lot of changes that went, there are a lot of changes that went into this portion of the report card. And it touched a lot of different areas. It covered our overall achievement, covered our target group achievement, 3rd grade ELA, and 8th grade math. So there's a lot of pieces that are impacted by that. Bottom line is it makes these report cards very difficult to compare to last year, years before, and DPI has already let us know that there are more calculation changes likely to come starting next year. So stay tuned. I don't know what these are going to look like. It is unfortunate because these are tools that we have leveraged. We think that they do give us a lot of good information, but we try to stay consistent with the way we measure data. And when we make big changes from year to year, it makes our jobs a little bit harder to try to pull out and glean those important things out of them.
So what you're saying, Ben, is that the DPI has dumbed this down, but we're going to keep our standards at a higher level. Is that correct?
I didn't say the dumbed down part, but I will completely echo the high standards piece. Yes, no matter what performance standards DPI sets on the forward exam, on the PreACT Secure, on the ACT, on these report cards, no matter how they want to tweak these, we will continue to look for higher achievement and keep those benchmarks and those standards high. There's no reason, we're a high-achieving district. We want to stay that way, and we want to
Understood.
pursue even higher.
High-achieving district, I got it. How does this help the rest of the kids in the state?
I don't know that it does.
So how do we trust these people? Can I say that?
I don't know that I can. You just did, Greg.
Don't strike that. I like that. Okay.
You know, I think the way that we view this is that we're going to do the work that we have to do, and we're going to take the measurements that we need to make, and we're going to analyze the data. And if there are external influences that make that harder for us, well, then we'll just work that much harder to do the very best we can. But it is unfortunate. It makes it a little bit more difficult for us to take the kinds of information out. And it really does diminish the trust people have in these documents, and it's a shame when you bounce from year to year with different things. People don't know what these mean anymore, and it's hard. We've worked really hard with our staff, our administrative team, to be able to understand what these mean and to make these big changes. You know, sadly, it puts us where we're focusing our energy in the wrong areas. We're focused on trying to interpret these new documents that didn't need to be changed in such a way, rather than actually trying to make the positive changes that we need to remain setting those standards so high here. I share your frustration.
So why don't we have parents sending emails and coming to meetings and complaining about this? Because the DPI makes it so incredibly difficult to understand that people just can't. Is that right?
There is a state superintendent election coming up in April, and that, you know, is the state office is the driver of the cut score, of the school report card, of all of those pieces. So, you know, when we get it through that election cycle, we already know that next year's assessment and everything is going to be different, correct, Ben?
The assessments should be the same. The report cards will probably look different.
So we have that, and then you either have the continuing administration or you have new administration, and they will then have a new set of direction that they want to take this in. So again, we need to maintain a high standard regardless of what this DPI asks us to do, and what we're looking at is both internal and the external growth measures in order to indicate our progress.
When is the election?
April.
And I think, just to echo and to piggyback on what Joe says, I think some of these things don't get the same attention that maybe they deserve. I found it interesting that even our local media probably did not pay as much attention to these things as they have in years past. We have to pay attention to these things, you know, and our community needs to as well. These are important things. So with that in mind, here is how our schools and how our district performed on this version. You can see at the district level, we remained in that exceeds expectations category. Our score was essentially flat from 23-24. At the elementary level, Big Bend and Clarendon were both in the exceeds expectations category. I will note that that is a category drop for Clarendon Avenue. Eagleville, Prairie View, Rolling Hills, and Section all remained in that significantly exceeds expectations category. And I want to really point out Rolling Hills, out of 897 elementary schools in Wisconsin that would attain a score, they had the 12th highest score. That puts them almost in the top 1%. Eagleville, by the way, they were 21st out of all of those scores as well. So some pretty phenomenal scores that we had there. I mean, we're proud of all of our buildings, but a couple of very specific data points I want to point out. Parkview remained at that exceeds expectations category, and MHS remained in meets expectations, although they saw almost a 3-point gain there as well. Tom, next slide, please. Oh, we did that one already. That's all right. No. So report card rankings, these are out of 367 districts, K-12 districts. So we're eliminating K-8 feeder schools like Waterford Graded and Swallow School District, and we're eliminating 9-12 Union high schools like Waterford Union and Arrowhead. They're not like for like versus a K-12 school district. Our overall score put us in the 32nd ranking, and that's again out of 367 districts, top 10%. That's a ranking change down from 2 points, 2 slots from last year. Our overall achievement was 23rd. That is up a slot from last year. ELA achievement 22nd, math achievement 27th. Student growth, and we're going to talk about this just briefly here, but that is an area where we really do need to spend some time focusing, and that's been a major point of emphasis at our district admin level. I know that almost all of our, I think all of our schools really are focusing on growth. It is not enough just to say our kids did really well and then be done. They all deserve to grow. They all deserve to learn more every single day, and that growth number there is a reflection of that. That 205th ranking is down about 6 spots from last year. That is one that we are going to put a lot of energy into trying to change, because that's probably our biggest need right now. Target group, I mentioned that bottom 25th percentile group, bottom quartile, 94th, that's up 1 spot from last year. And then on track for graduation was 10th, and 3rd grade ELA achievement, 16th overall ranking, which puts us the same ranking we had last year. I mentioned the growth, and this is just going to lead into what Angela and Michelle are going to present here in a couple of agenda items, but particularly I want to pay attention, or I want you to pay attention to the ELA growth scores there for each of our buildings. Eagleville and Rolling Hills maintained their growth from the previous year, but all the other schools saw a decrease. And we are going to talk about the resource, or Angela and Michelle will talk about that in a minute, but that is a big point of concern for us. We know that we are performing very, very well when those kids exit 3rd grade. We need to maintain that 4th, 5th, 6th grade and beyond. And so I have that slide up there to show you this is why this is a major area of focus and why there are some things around the, particularly that intermediate ELA that we need to work on. Tom? One of our aspiring goals here, state district rankings I mentioned, top 10. By the way, only 10 K-12 districts that reach that significantly exceeds expectations category. It is lofty territory, but that is our target. We want to be one of those school districts. And we put this up there to show you who those districts are and what their profile looks like. You can see the one that sticks out for us is that growth ranking. Target group outcomes could certainly use some improvement, but I believe strongly that if our growth ranking improves, we will see an improvement, not just on the target group outcomes, but really on that achievement rank as well. We believe this is an attainable goal, maybe not in 1 year, maybe not in 2, but we believe we can be in that significantly exceeds expectations category and you know, be pushing those top 10 districts. We know we have the staff and we have the community to do that. Tom. And then one other point, we don't want to dwell on the high school rankings, but I think it's important to show, you know, where we still remain, and you know, we're doing the work that we need to do there, but we're not out of the woods yet. So basically 20 comparable high schools that we look at. This is the top 10. It's not all like for like. I want to point out schools like KM School of Health Sciences, Waukesha Engineering Prep, KM Global, KM Perform. Those are schools within schools. They're much smaller subsets. They're I don't want to say elite groups of kids, but kids self-select into those groups. And so they're not exactly like for like. You want to look at the Brookfield Easts, the Brookfield Centrals, Muskegos. Those are probably the best comparables to us. You don't see us on that list. And then if we go to the next slide here, you'll see that we are 3rd from the bottom. This remains to be a focus point. Stephanie and I talk frequently about the data types of things. We continue to move ACT work around that and taking a special focus on PreACT Secure, and of course all the work that we're doing, or that building, it's really Stephanie and her team and all of our teachers there working around trying to make some big improvements there. And so Joe asked me to include these just to keep that perspective of where we are with the high school, and hopefully we'll see us moving up that list very, very quickly here. Questions?
Anybody have any questions?
It's past all of our bedtimes.
We're good, thank you.
All right, and Ben's going to keep going on to the next item. He's been working with the high school on the PreACT Secure testing schedule, so wants to present a little change on that.
Yep, and just an informational item for you. So something that I've actually been recommending for a few years, and I think we're finally going to be able to get a chance to do this year, but is to treat that PreACT Secure assessment much like we treat the statewide ACT, which is we shut the building down, we only have the students who are testing in the building, and we're able to create the very best testing environment we can. We're able to really instill a level of seriousness to the testing. Whereas when it's just business as usual that day, I think we all believe that some of our kids don't take it as seriously. They don't perform their best. There are still kids out in the hall. There are still things going on. And so it's really not the best testing environment. So Stephanie and her team agreed that we should pursue this year and do what a lot of other high schools have done in the region, which is to test all of our 9th and 10th graders on one day. We are looking at Tuesday, April 8th. Juniors and seniors would not be in the building that day. This will allow us to spread testing out across the building, be able to have smaller testing sessions, and really just an overall much better testing environment to allow our kids to perform the very best that they can. Good news is, due to the calendar changes we made last year and the schedule changes, we have more than ample instructional minutes, barring an absolutely horrific winter. And so we should have no problems with fitting this into the calendar. And so just an informational item. I know Stephanie and her team is anxious to get this communication out to the MHS families so that they can make arrangements. Questions?
None on this, thank you.
All right, next, Michelle and I are going to give an update on the curriculum cycle. Tom, if you can pull that up. Michelle, do you want to grab the clicker right there? Okay. Oh, you won't be able to click if you're in that one. Okay. Okay, so again, this is just an informational item as well. We're just going to give you a brief update on our curriculum cycle and where we are with some of the work with our curriculum renewal. You can go ahead to the next slide. So as a school district, obviously, one of our main goals is to ensure that we are providing the highest quality educational programming in all of our content areas and across all of our grade levels. So to that end, we engage in an ongoing process of curriculum renewal. This includes acquisition of new materials at times as well. So you can see it says adoption cycle as well. This process is a 4-phase process, and it takes about 8 years, give or take. Sometimes there are some adjustments we make to the cycle, but basically it is an 8-year process. And there are 4 main components that you can see there on the screen. So in year 1, we are in our research year. So this is the year where we are evaluating our current programming to determine what our needs are. We are reviewing current research, best practices, and really defining our program philosophy so we know what it is that we need in that area and what adjustments we need to make. As we move into year 2, typically we are piloting new resources, and this includes also rewriting and revising our curriculum. So teachers are working with some new resources, we are collecting feedback from them, and then making a recommendation to move forward possibly with a new resource and with some new curriculum. In year 3, we are in the implementation year. This is definitely a heavy lift for the teachers. They are implementing a new curriculum. They are using those new resources. We are providing a lot of training to our teachers and staff around the curriculum and the resources. And then we're continuing to gather feedback from the teachers and make adjustments. And then as we move into year 4 and beyond, we are monitoring. So we are continuing to look at our data. We're continuing to collect feedback from our teachers, our administrators, to see how things are going with the program and continuing to make those adjustments as needed. Tom, you can go ahead to the next one. So with that process in mind, we have a curriculum cycle timeline. So we have all of those steps for each of the areas and each of the grade levels kind of plotted out. This is to make sure that we are continually evaluating all of those areas and also to spread things out a little bit as there is a financial impact with purchasing new materials. So I just highlighted for you on the screen a few years. It's last year, this year, and next year. This was our current cycle that we were working with. And so just a quick update of where we were last year and where we're going. So last year, they were researching secondary ELA and science. They were also implementing new resources at elementary social studies and then piloting for elementary math curriculum. This year, we are piloting at our secondary ELA programming as well as science, and we are implementing that new curriculum at elementary math. The plan for this year was to research science, but as you heard Ben say, we have determined that we have a greater need in our elementary ELA programming, as you could see from some of the growth data and the data that he presented. So we have decided to put our elementary ELA into research year for this year. And Michelle's going to talk a little bit more about the rationale for that. Next slide, Tom. So this is just a look at a curriculum cycle. We are currently really looking at our cycle. It is under revision, and we are revising it just based on the needs of our system. For next year, as I mentioned, the one change that we have made for sure is that we are researching for this year our elementary ELA. The other change that we made is that we will be looping our 6th grade into the current science pilot. So we were piloting at 7 through 12. Now that we know that our 6th graders will be moving on to the middle school, we're going to loop them into the science pilot. So they won't be piloting the actual materials. They're reviewing the materials. They'll be meeting with the 7th and 8th grade teachers. And then when we move to adopt a new resource for science, we will include 6th grade in that adoption. And then we are really assessing our needs right now. One of the things that we have heard from teachers, especially at the elementary level, is that things are moving a bit rapidly for them, and they need a little bit more time as they are implementing these new curriculums. So we're being very strategic and diligent with how we move forward with this elementary research, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later in the presentation. But for right now, we are really just looking at what our needs are, and then we'll be plotting out our cycle for the years going forward. Okay.
All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the rationale behind changing the science year with our ELA research year. As you know, I've been working pretty closely with the elementary teachers over the last few years, and so we did a lot of professional development and training with our kindergarten through 2nd grade teachers using letters training. We then opened that up to the upper grades as well, and as those teachers began learning more and more, which they appreciated, we also were afforded the opportunity to do the Intermediate Literacy Academy through CISA 6. So last year, I took a couple 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade teachers and one of our instructional coaches to CISA 6, and we engaged in some more learning together at the upper grades. And I think, like with anything, as you start to do more research and you start to do more learning, you start to evaluate what you're doing in comparison to the things that you want to be your end goal. And we started to identify some gaps. And over the last couple of summers, I've met with teachers and we've tried really hard to address some of the things that we feel our current resource, especially in 4th and 5th grade, are missing. And I think we've done a pretty nice job of closing some of the gaps. However, still have some concerns that the things that we're learning are impactful practices can't be implemented as well as we would like with the current resource. Some of the things that we feel are lacking as we look at our scores too would be vocabulary development, getting the kids to read on grade level texts with support, doing more shared readings. There's just a lot of areas that we've identified that we want to have in a resource that we don't feel this particular resource has. And I think our teachers are getting a little bit tired and constantly trying to fix something. And at this point, we were looking at, I want them to spend more of their time really on the instructional practices and less time on trying to find, different pieces to fill gaps in the resource. And so with the standard alignment work, we also identified some areas that we needed to work on. And as we're doing more and more research around content knowledge building, we really want a resource that will do that for us as well. And so by postponing science, a lot of what's out there right now with our resources, when we've started to look, have a lot of that content knowledge building built right in. And so it makes sense that we would look at adopting a resource in ELA and then looking at how does science fit into that, because some of those pieces will be provided within that literacy resource. So that'll help us out in the long run for science as well. Tom. I've presented the Scarborough's reading rope to you before. This is, when we're talking about the science of reading, all of those are the pieces that we know need to be strong. And we just, as we're doing our research, are identifying areas that we really feel our current core resource is lacking. Over the years, we've adopted things like spelling connections because we didn't feel that after K2, the third graders were getting any more phonics instruction. So if you were a second grader who left and you weren't really secure in those things, we didn't have anything. So we did some research, we brought in spelling connections. I want to say I just was at the Rolling Hills Spelling Bee, and I think in the last couple of years since implementing that, we've gone more rounds than we had in years past. And so hopeful that bringing that piece in really did help. But we're just looking at, we feel like we're constantly pulling things in and piecemealing things together. And at the end of the day, what we'd really like to find is a really strong resource that's a little bit more comprehensive so we don't feel like we're constantly having to pull and address things. Tom, if you could move ahead. So as Angela mentioned, what we'd like to do is partake in our research part this year. We've already done so much research by giving our teachers that letters training and providing the opportunity to go to the Intermediate Literacy Academy. We're continuing to pull articles and books and podcasts together to really educate all of our teachers on what it is that we need to look for in a strong resource so that when we start having the vendors come out, we know exactly what we're looking for, our teachers know exactly what they're looking for, and we can make a decision that's best for our students. So along with that, we'll be continuing to brush up on those best practices, which we've been doing over the last several years. We'll look to different professional organizations for their recommendations on the different resources. We're in a great place where other local districts have already sort of adopted new things, and they're in their second year of implementation, so networking with them will be great. Getting into other schools' classrooms to see what they're using, what does their data look like. I think it puts us in a really nice position for that as well. And then one of the last pieces is for us to really strengthen what our philosophy is going to be as a district and what we're looking for our students in the area of literacy.
Okay, so this is just a summary of the steps that we plan to take this year. We have convened a research year team. This team includes all of our elementary literacy CAT chairs. Those are our teacher leaders in the area of literacy. It includes our instructional coaches. It includes Michelle and I from Student Learning, and then our elementary principals as well. We are in the process right now of conducting a comprehensive needs assessment of our program. We had our first meeting with our research team last Thursday. That went great, and we really started digging in to our data. We are working on a survey to send out to teachers to collect their feedback regarding our current ELA programming and their needs in that area. We have started to look at our program philosophy and our instructional framework. This is something that had already been created, but we're going to revisit that and make sure that we're aligning that with our secondary instructional framework as well. We will be doing some standards work, identifying our essential standards, and then from all of those pieces, that will point us to what it is that we need, what our needs are in the system, and what capacity we need to build. And then we will review resources and plan for a possible resource pilot. We are really working with the teachers on this one. Again, as I said before, the feedback that we got from them is that things are moving rapidly in elementary. It's a little different than secondary, where they have one content area that they are teaching. So for our elementary people, they had a new social studies. This year they have new math. So we want to make sure that we're really surveying them on where their capacity is right now for this. We know with 3-5 that we do need to make some adjustments. So we are planning to most likely focus on 3-5, but again, we will be surveying our teachers to see what the needs are there. Do you have any questions for us?
Any questions? You said the teachers were saying it was going too fast. How do we slow that down for them?
That's where I think we need to really work with our curriculum cycle. I think based on just various things that happen in the system, as well as COVID, some things got moved around with that. The cycle sometimes just gets adjusted. And so things get stacked up on each other. So that's where we're trying to be really intentional, but yet responsive to the specific needs that we know we have.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Thank you.
All right, Tom, if you can open up my reading Rumble update. Okay, so I'm excited about this one. I know you guys have been sitting here for a really long time, so I'm gonna make it snappy. First of all, I just wanted to let you know, since I've taken this position, I have always wanted to do something where we pulled all of the elementary schools together in some sort of academic competition. And so this opportunity presented itself to me. Tom, if you could just go to the next slide right away. Thank you. So I pulled together a Reading Rumble team that consists of our building LTSs, which is like our library and media specialists, and our ALP, which are the Advanced Learning Program teachers. And we met together at the Mukwonago Public Library in October because I kind of thought, well, great place to grab some books off the shelf while I'll leave. It's just like a nice atmosphere there. And we decided that we wanted to offer something similar to Battle of the Books. However, we didn't want to deal with any of the copyright issues because if you go to a website like the America's Battle of the Books and you purchase their book list, you cannot put any of their questions digitally anywhere. And but you have to remember I am working with my librarians who are very conscientious about copyright. So we decided we wanted to be able to do this program the way we wanted to, and we want to be able to use a platform like Kahoot. So it's really kind of like not necessarily a game show so much, but the audience can see the questions, the kids have their little tablets, and they get to answer the questions on the tablets. And if we would have used something where we had to follow copyright rules, we wouldn't have been allowed to store any of their questions digitally. So we were like, this was a really ambitious effort, I just have to tell you, because we had to choose all the books, write all the questions, and the group of women that I'm working with are amazing. Like, they were so excited to do this that it made it a lot of fun. So we decided we're going to offer this to grades 4, 5, and 6. This will be a voluntary program, but I'm really hoping to promote it so we get a lot of participation. We changed the name to the Reading Rumble, same thing. We didn't want any copyright issues with Battle of the Books. And we like good alliteration, so we went with Reading Rumble. The opportunity is optional, so we are requiring a parent permission slip. So parents will receive the list of the books, and they will receive all of the not obligation so much, but like the commitment, because it will be a little bit of a time commitment, right? If you're in a team of 3 or 4 students, you're committing to reading a few books. And so we just want the parents to know everything that's involved, so they'll get all the information. They can sign the permission slip if they're choosing to allow their child to participate. There will be teams of 3 to 4 students. And then, Tom, if you can go to the next page, please. We decided on Kahoot. We'd kind of been dabbling between Kahoot and quizzes, but we decided we're going to use Kahoot, and that will be used to display the Rumble questions. There will be varying levels of Rumble, so we'll have schools hosting grade level Rumbles. So all the 4th grade teams will come and they'll compete. The top 2 teams from 4th grade, the top 2 teams from 5th grade, and 6th grade from each building will then go to compete in the school Rumble, and the winner of that school Rumble will represent that elementary school in the district Rumble, which will happen at the PAC. And some kind of fun facts, the school principals are going to be emceeing the building, because we really wanted this to be like amped up. Tom, if you can slide that over. So here's our little timeline. So October, November, we've been reading like crazy because we do have a process on how we're selecting our books. December, we wanted to update the board. I will have a link to the book lists, and what I had with the process that I'm kind of giving a preview of already is basically we came together with a whole bunch of books and we started to read them, and we had at least 2 people had to read each book, and we basically put anything at all that we wanted to talk about. Like if the word stupid was used, we put it down, what page number was used, so we could have a conversation. Like, is this gonna be like a deal breaker, or do we think that the content of this book is strong enough that that word can be overseen for that particular instance? And then I talked to my very judgy 6th grade daughter as well, and I'm like, hey, is this school appropriate? Do you think this is okay? And she's like, Mom, it's fine. So she's gonna be so embarrassed that I brought her up. So December, we really want to make the final book decision, so I would love it if at some point, if you just take a glance at that document, because it just has all of our things, and if there's anything on there that you have concerns about, just let me know, because we would really like to promote this in early January to our kids so that they have time to read the books. So January, February is we're going to really start promoting those, pushing out the permission slips. March, we're going to have the teams come together to do like a little practice rumble so that they know how to use Kahoot, because we don't want to have any issues the day of. They're going to make team posters, and then in May, that's when the grade level, the school reading rumbles will be, like I said, emceed by the building principal. And then on Wednesday, May 21st, this is Joe's favorite part, our district reading rumble is going to be emceed by no one other than Dr. Cook. So, and then, well, that was actually somewhat his idea. So we're going to have the foyer reserved afterwards. We're going to have a cake for the kids. Tom, if you can click the button on this as well. Thank you. So we did try to cover several genres with the books, because obviously the point of this is to get kids reading and reading books that maybe they would never have experienced before. We wanted them to be age appropriate, but we also wanted them to have high student interest. We started well over, I said at 15, but I think we started with probably 25, and we've just started narrowing it down through our discussions on that document. I will read all of the books. I'm almost done with them. It's been delightful because I actually have an excuse to like go sit and read, and I feel like I'm doing my job, so it's not bad. It's been great. So the book list is linked there. Tom, do you mind clicking on that? I'm gonna have to buy Tom coffee tomorrow. Okay, so just so that you're aware, this is the process we use. So basically, we put the title, the author, the genre. We wrote a summary. We wrote down who read the book. Were there any concerns? If there were concerns, like I said, we were nitpicking every little thing so we could have a conversation about it. And then after the book had been read by at least 2 people, we highlighted. So I just have a couple more books of my own that I'm reading. I saved the ones that I knew nobody else had any concerns about for last. And so the books that are listed here, with the exception of one that I'm still debating, are the ones that we're going to likely be going with. So again, if you take some time and you see anything of any concern, just let me know. If you can let me know by the first week of January when we're back, that would be great, so that we can start to push this out to our students. And then Tom, you can go back to the... All right, next. Yep, so fun facts, we are getting a District Rumble trophy that will be a traveling trophy. So from year to year, hopefully this is popular and we can offer it for more than just a year. But the winning school will get to house the trophy, and then the following year, if it moves to another school, I have been working with a shirt designer who created a logo for us. It is not the one that's present because I didn't have the logo when I created this for you, so now a week later we're good. But I have a logo, and then we're going to offer that to the students. We're going to have blue ones for the kids who participate in the school battles, and then we're going to have gold ones for the kids that go to the district battle, so that they have that. We're going to have a cake reception, and we are looking into hopefully live streaming this, because it's the final battle is at the PAC. And so if the kids at their home schools want to watch classmates compete, we're hoping we can get that worked out so that the live stream will work. So I think that might be everything. Do you have any questions for me at all?
Oh, it sounds great.
I was trying to wake you guys up a little bit too, but yeah, I'm very excited about this. So, and a shout out to the team of teachers who are helping me with this, because it's been so fun.
Michelle is the queen of nitpicking, so I appreciate it.
Yes, I have.
Since you brought up the Mukwonago Library,
yes,
I'll just share this. Abby, the director of the Mukwonago Community Library, was just, she's been named the American Library Association, ALA, I Love My Librarian, honorary for 2024.
Oh.
So congratulations.
Yeah. Right. So any other questions for me about this?
No other questions. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you to Michelle. The amount of work that went into this, to find the books, to put the committee together, and then the time dedicated to reading has just been tremendous. So thank you so much, Michelle.
I do have copies of the books too off to the side if anyone wants to take a peek at them before they leave tonight.
Thank you. All right, on to student service topics.
I just want to remind you, Joe, that you're going to have to smile if you're emceeing that.
I'll start
thing.
practicing in the new year.
All right.
No,
That'll be a
those are
good,
strong
good goal
points.
for you. All right. So I'm here tonight just to present sort of a mid-year update on student behavior. So as you go through, if you're following along on your Chromebook or your computer, I did update a few of the slides just so that they're relevant as of today's date because we didn't meet last Monday. So the topics we're going to cover tonight are really going over an update on Care Solace. That is, again, that mental health navigation tool, that program that we purchased, our partnership with the Gals Institute, and then also just an overview of students receiving support and what they're receiving support for. I also have some behavior data on in-school and out-of-school suspensions. Stephanie is here. She's so glad she chose tonight to stay late. I mean, I just wanted her to have a taste of what it used to be like. So she's here to do a random drug testing update and then also just give the board an update on how the cell phone policy is going at the high school. And then also to look at some pre-expulsion data. All right, Tom is handing out Starbursts. All right, so we are going to start with our Care Solace report. So this is a slide that I did update. It's going to be different on here than it is on your Chromebook, but looking at just that total number of cases, again, that's 57 families that are receiving support right now or are looking or have had a referral put in. The 25 symbolizes the number of patient appointments that have been booked. The 2,811 are the number of emails, voice messages, and contacts made for families. So that 64.7 equals the amount of time used for that 2,811 contacts, if that makes sense. And then we've also had 51 additional families looking for resources. So I wanted to know who is accessing this resource, so who are our demographics. He's very distracting back there. So the gender, as far as who is accessing, we have about 72% being female and about 28% being male. And then looking at just the age of the students and the adults accessing, we're about 50-50. So ages 3 to 17 represent about 50% of the appointments and referrals being made, while 50% also 18 to 64 are also being referred for services. Also just wanted to take another look at where the needs of our community is coming in. So you'll see a slow climb, I guess, in inhalants, cannabis, and alcohol for substance use. And then if you go over to the mental health needs, anxiety, depression have trended consistently at the top of the needs, along with some newer diagnoses of bipolar and OCD that I have not seen on here prior to tonight. And then this next page just kind of represents the maze of navigating mental health resources, which is why I think our families, it can be such a barrier in our community. Just to get in with somebody, it's going to depend on what your health insurance is. I just met with a family today who said they're waiting 6 months. Care Solace really does help get the resource in place and get that ball rolling. I have to say, too, that I've contacted the Gals Institute. I spoke with them twice today about families, and we were able to get them in pretty relatively quick to get some.
I'm sorry, could you guys keep it down back there, please? Thank you.
We're able to get in relatively quick. And again, we have had a partnership with them now historically for a couple of years. And so I'm always looking to see if they're on our top provider list as well. And so I was really happy to see that these two families were able to get the support that they needed in a timely manner. And then just looking at the Gals Institute, we are going to continue to partner with them for our community education opportunities. Our next one is going to be around school attendance. The winter months can sometimes be a tough time to get our kids back through the door, and so we're going to be spending some time talking about that. On the right there, you see a little clip of a workshop they're going to be offering over the winter break, and so those are open to anybody. Anybody can sign up and go to them. And there'll be kids not only from our district, but other districts around us. The Gals Institute is also coming 1 day a week at SOAR. So that's been a great relationship for our students at SOAR. She comes actually a morning and then an afternoon. So she gets to build that relationship with our kids, and that's been super helpful. And then we are still offering some on-site and virtual counseling opportunities for students. So we work with providers to see kids during the day, if it works, as a support, and only with parent permission. And then we always have a signed agreement with that agency, with our parent, and with our school to make sure that we have supportive measures in place. We don't have a ton of counseling that takes place during the school day, but we do try to accommodate if we have the room, if we have the memorandum of understanding signed, if we have all of our things kind of checked off, then we try to be as supportive as possible. It keeps our kids in school and not, you know, if it's the appointment's at 9 o'clock, then it's probably not worth coming to school. And then, you know, you get done at 10 and then it's like, let's go grab lunch. And then by that time you've missed a half day of school. So it is nice to be able to offer some of that support here. So then just looking at our own student data, our student services staff have worked with a number of students already this year, roughly 30-ish families that have students being treated for some pretty intensive inpatient and outpatient needs, and those are listed there. I would say those mirror a lot of what we're seeing on our Care Solace report as well for why families are looking for resources. And then again, we continue to work. We strive to create a partnership that wraps around a student to provide the most supportive environment we can. So if they're leaving an inpatient or outpatient treatment center, then we're working to come up with the best bridged plan to help them come back to school in a successful manner. And then I didn't have this in the original presentation, but in light of today's tragic school shooting, I thought it was relevant and appropriate just to remind our community that we do have a relationship with the Speak Up, Speak Out in Wisconsin that is a partnership with the Department of Justice and the Office of School Safety. So we introduced that back in December of 2019. We average about 53 tips per year. Our district has had 207 tips to date. So keep in mind that those tips have a variety of issues. They're not all about school threats or school safety. But it is important for people to remember that if there are students or friends struggling with mental health, if they're finding a social media post that's concerning, if they are worried about drugs or vaping or suicidal tendencies, that this is a safe place for them to put in an anonymous tip. It is monitored 24/7. So we have, if it is like a crisis in situation that needs immediate attention and it's 2 o'clock in the morning, they're gonna send the PD. So that's always like it feels good to know that somebody is always paying attention. On our end, we have to close out a tip and document what steps we've taken to ensure that we have some accountability on our part too, that the tips come in, we're reacting. The high school's done a phenomenal job being like right on top of any tips they've received. And I'd say we primarily receive them at the high school with a couple at the middle school from time to time. The nice thing about Speak Up, Speak Out is that you can upload images from social media or other photos. If you have a short video clip, everything can be uploaded. And so that's really helpful for the people who are investigating the tip in the first place. All right. So then I did ask Stephanie to be here tonight to talk about the random drug testing. And then the next slide will go over just an update for the cell phone policy.
Okay, so we continue to do random drug testing at MHS. It's been great this year because with the addition of the clinic right on site, we're actually using the clinic as a partner with that. So It's been much smoother, much more private, a better situation, I think, to do that. We do have always two associate principals that help facilitate this, just because there's a lot of walking them to and just keeping track of things that way. We've had 30 students tested so far this year. We've had 3 positives in those 30 students. And then follow up from that. We do notify parents for negative or positive test results if their child has been tested at the school. And then just a reminder, according to our policy, that positive students have their parking privileges revoked, and obviously an athletic code violation if they're an athlete we move forward with too. And then Christine had also asked me to update the cell phone policy and what we're seeing from that at the high school. And this is something, honestly, on behalf of the teachers and the administrators that I work with, that I couldn't be more proud how we took a topic that, honestly, this summer as we were planning for it seemed a tad bit insurmountable with as addicted as students are on their phone, and I believe have really made it work for the building. I really don't think this could be going a lot better at MHS. So we average, at this point, 1 to 6 confiscations a day. That means we have a system, I mean, most of the time it is a hallway monitor who is sent to the room and just grabs the phone. We have slips of paper that are wrapped around the phone. They come down. We have an admin assistant that logs it for us on a sheet that we keep track of, and then if phone calls need to be made to go home because parents need to pick them up, we do that. It is pretty seamless, I would say, at this point, and not a burden on the building to keep up with it. We do follow a progressive discipline for that, and you can see there's by the graph that I put on there that we are tracking offenses in the sheet that we're keeping. We have, I think the last time I looked, because I did this for a week ago, we had 296 first offenses, but I want everybody, it seems like a lot, but I want everybody to keep in mind we have 1,600 students in our building. So again, we've had 296 first offenses. A first offense is just simply a warning and a phone call home saying the next time your child is caught with their phone, you will have to pick it up. So we give that warning to parents.
But no fine.
No fine. And have the conversation with the student on what's going to happen. So you can see first offenses seem to be working well because we've only had 79 second offenses. A second offense is now detention and after school hour detention issued to the student, and the parent has to come and pick up the cell phone or the earpods if that's what it, or AirPods if that's what it is. Third offense then drops to 28. A third offense is the student now needs to start turning in their cell phone in the morning, and we hang on to it for the day. Parent still needs to come and pick that phone up then. And then fourth offense, we drop to 8. We did decide originally in our plan that the fourth offense was going to be a suspension. When we got to the first one, we went, ugh. We really don't want to send kids out of school because they're struggling with with bringing the phone out. And so we added for the fourth offense, we actually add collecting the phone for a month, and we've added a parent meeting. So I'm in every meeting as the principal. We meet with whatever AP is involved. We pull the parents in, we pull the students in, and we have a pretty intense meeting about what this is going to look like moving forward. And I don't even want to say it out loud, but so far we have not had a fifth offense in the building. Yes.
I know it's early still, but how's the trend looking over time with confiscations? Is there a strong downward trend over time, or students becoming accustomed to it, the new policy?
I would say we are holding steady. And I would also say, like, the week of Thanksgiving break, we saw an uptick. There's certain trends that I think that we see just before a break or so. A downward trend, no, but steady. And again, we have days, we're waiting for the day that we get none, and we haven't had one yet. We're going to celebrate when we do, but we have a lot of days that there's one at this point. We definitely notice we take them after lunch more than in the morning. Like, there are definitely some patterns with it, but it's steady, I would say, in those 1 to 6.
I don't know how this would look or how it would be staffed, but do you ever look at doing in-house suspensions? That way they can still get their work done.
So we are having that conversation as a team. We're actually looking at what we would consider to be staffing areas, and we're trying to prioritize them, and that is definitely on our list. The newer AP team and myself are wondering what that would look like to add that. Actually, the last parent meeting that we had for the phones, when we told them that the 5th offense would be sending them out, that's not something we want to do. The parents said to us, the parents said, please do not give him an out-of-school suspension. Give him an in-school suspension. And the kid said, I will not take out my phone if it's an in-school suspension, because I think our parents, some of them do struggle with an out-of-school suspension. If they're not home for the day, I don't think it has the meat to it that an in-school would have. And so we are looking at staffing of that and whether or not we could pull that off.
Awesome.
So,
thank you.
The other things I would say is that the majority of parents have been great partners with us. Watching what happened on social media recently with the cell phones, like the majority of parents, and thank them because they have been great to work with. The majority of the parents, I would say majority, support this and understand why it's been put into place and have been great to work with. We, so far, are seeing a trend of having less Fs in the building. It's not completely fleshed out yet, obviously, after only really 1 quarter of looking at that, but we did have less Fs in the building first quarter than we had the year before. And even with this in place, we have far less minor and major behavioral referrals this year than we have seen in the past, way down in November, we noticed. So, yeah.
Stephanie, considering what happened today in Madison, the first thing I thought of was...
Craig, can you speak in a mic, please?
I was just going to say.
I had to. It was a softball. Okay, Giannis.
You got me. Considering what happened today in Madison, the first thing I thought of was this makes people think they're going to come after you and say, see, we were whatever.
So again, I want to keep in mind that we did decide to go with a policy, and I think it's extremely important to remind people of that they're not asked to keep them in a locked box. They're not in their cars. They're not in their lockers. The students, their cell phones are within grab all the time. They're still keeping them in a pocket in there. They just can't come out, but they are within arm's reach. And I see that sometimes on social media and think we probably need to do a better job of letting the parents know the decision that this board made, which is they could still grab it if they needed to.
Great recommendation by you, by the way.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
I want to honestly thank Parkview and the high school administration, because without their consistency and like teamwork, I don't think we'd be in this.
It is our teachers. I mean, I definitely want to give a
Yep.
huge shout out because I asked them when I stood in front of them at the beginning of the year in August that this is something that we all needed to collectively be on, and they've been rock stars. They've been phenomenal on keeping this going and making sure that students know we're being serious about this.
One quick question. What kind of drugs are they testing for during the random drug test? Is it like just marijuana and nicotine, or is it a whole wide variety of drugs?
THC, correct?
Yep. There's a 5-panel. I don't know if it's 5 or 10-panel drug. I can get you all of them, but they'll test for opioids and THC, nicotine, but then some harder drugs also.
Okay, because I think it, if we have 3 positives, obviously we're not putting up the names of students who had them, but I'd like to know what kind of drugs they got caught for. Was it heroin or was it marijuana? you know, if there's a way to break that down.
Yeah, we could provide that.
Thank you.
Carolyn?
For the speak up, speak out, how are kids being informed of that? Does it start in middle school? Is it during their homeroom classes, or how do they? I feel like it should be like a repetitive thing where we're continually reminding them every other month or a few times a year, just so they know it's a resource for them.
We definitely do put it out, I would say, on a monthly basis at the high school in different ways.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have posters all over the place too, and we're
Yeah,
always
that's
reminding
what I seen
kids.
those,
Yeah.
Okay.
So it has been a really good tool for us, and it's free.
Yeah.
And it's monitored. I mean, for free. I mean, it's a really great tool. So. All right, moving on. I'm just going to look at some suspension data, and I just want to. When we're looking at these next 3 slides, the comparisons are apple to apple. So we took September to November for 3 years consecutively. So when you're looking here, you're going to see that that Parkview had like a spike in 23-24 of 33 in-school suspensions, and I think that is largely due to the fact that we were working on reinforcing some appropriate school behavior and providing some consistent practice and policy around what we're asking of students. And interestingly, MHS has very small in-school suspensions because they don't have an in-school suspension room, which is actually, I was gonna say that on this next slide anyway. So one of the goals I think the high school is trying to consider is that something that would be sustainable? I love the idea, I think everybody does. We wanna keep our kids in school, and I think for high school students, a little bit more painful to have to sit there all day versus being out of school. So when you're looking at this trend line for the last couple of years, you're gonna see that Parkview has less out-of-school suspensions, and the high school has more out-of-school suspensions. But I'd say in general, we're still trending down. And I think that goes, has a lot to be said about all the norming we're doing around our disciplinary practices, and also just being consistent, like consistently, like this is the way we're gonna go. I think that's been helpful, and it's been really helpful for our administrators to be in the same room talking about how we're handling different behaviors. So this, after we pulled the data for the individual in school or out of school, I was curious to know what our breakdown was, and I have to give a shout out to Ben because Ben's always helping me pull data. But just looking across at the elementary is the top row, Parkview is the middle, and then MHS is down at the bottom. So that, again, this is only September to November, but you're going to see in 23-24 at Parkview, you're gonna see that spike there under inappropriate behavior. And then at the high school in 23-24, you're gonna see a breakdown of where the major categories were happening. But if you look at 24-25, you're gonna see that they start switching around a little bit, which I still think is a positive trend that we are going, I don't know if it's positive to be going up on vapes, but it's positive to be going down on drugs, so that I'm happy about.
Shocker, there's only 9 vape stores in town.
Yeah, 900.
Unreal.
Yeah, so then speaking of that, we do have a consistent practice around our pre-expulsion process. So if a student has a major violation of one of our board policies, so for example, a first offense of drugs or alcohol in our schools, we do have a pre-expulsion meeting. And part of that pre-expulsion meeting is having it here at the district office, and then we have myself, the principal, and a few other players that come around the table with the parents and the student to figure out what we're going to do next. And so last year, I had roughly 44 parent meetings. That was for the entire year, and those were all related to, 29 of them were related to substance use, while 15 were other conduct. This year, I've had 9 actually, and all of those have been mostly related to substance use this year. So we go over board policies that would be relevant, and then really trying to come up with an agreement that avoids coming here for expulsion. So that is our main goal. It's never a good day for anybody if we have to talk to the school board about moving somebody to expulsion. So our next steps, we continue to collaborate and norm around our behavior incidents and our investigations.
We continue to build out our multi-level system of support. So not just about what are we doing academically, but what are we doing to intervene on some behaviors. Again, really working hard on remaining consistent in our policy implementation and practices. Working to be responsive to mental health needs. So we're watching the data, and if there's something that we need to be doing differently, then let's talk about that. We'll continue to offer professional development opportunities. So we have 3 people in our district that are trained to be youth mental health first aid trainers, and that they have trained well over 100 staff in our own district. It's a 16-hour training that has been a great tool. We also have nonviolent crisis intervention training. We have couple hundred staff who go through that every year. And then we continue to circle back around how are we addressing that whole child in our professional learning community. So you've heard a lot of conversations about our PLCs, but part of our PLC learning is that what are we gonna do if a kid isn't learning? And it's not always just academics for a reason that a child isn't learning. And so then what is it and how do we address that whole child? You guys have any questions for me?
Any questions? No. Thank you. All right. Up next, finance and facilities.
All right, I'll go quick for everybody here. So first thing we have is the District 403B match. In order to finish the process of removing, I should say, transferring money from a District 403B bank account into individual teacher accounts when they've been fully vested in the money, it belongs to them. We need to adopt a resolution that ultimately just recognizes 2 trust funds. The paperwork is, it's in the agenda. If you have any questions, let me know, but we'll look to adopt that at the next meeting. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Emergency repair. So we have a board policy that says that anything over $5,000 in an emergency fashion, we let you know about it. So you all know about the Rolling Hills well repair. We were able to recoup almost $30,000 of the $50,000 through an insurance claim. So that was a good thing. Obviously a tough situation though, nonetheless. Then just also letting you know, we had a dishwasher failure at Big Bend Elementary. Typically of anything over $5,000, we are getting at least 3 bids. We requested those bids. Only 1 of 3 entities actually replied and said, hey, we can actually do the work at the time we needed the work done. The work needs to be done over non-student days because of the total disruptive nature of new electrical, rewiring, everything that goes into it. It wasn't really a choice. Something that we had to do, so we're just letting you know about that as well. Okay? All right. Any questions there? All right. Citizens Bank business opportunity. Citizens Bank is, as we talked about before, is interested in starting Fast M checking accounts in exchange for letting them use our Fast M logo. They would give us 0.5% of all Fast M checking account debit card transactions, up to a maximum of $2,500 a month or $30,000 annually. So that's the offer. This would launch in about 6 months' time. Any questions there? Other than Craig's question about the Indian head?
Yeah. So we can have Fast M or Indian head?
They offered the Fast M, Craig. I did ask. They didn't answer.
I'm a 43-year Citizens Bank customer.
Speaking of Mike, please.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have that much money there, though, so they're not really.
Moving on.
Okay, thank you. All right, then lastly, I guess I just want to quickly, we're going to embark on the building the 25-26 budget. We're going to head into the first year of a biennial budget where we don't know how much money per student we're going to get. What I'd like to do this year, well, you can do it one of 2 ways. One, just tell me, take a guess, Tom, and figure it out. My fear is that I'm wrong, and then you guys are mad. Or I ask all you guys, if I'll give you some information in January, I'll give you a quick history of here's what's been done in the past, here's the state of the union with the state biennial budget, and a couple of other suggestions. I'd like for each of you to guess what amount do you think we'll get. I will take the average of all your guesses, and that's how we'll build our budget.
Make a little game out of it, you're saying.
A little game out of it.
Didn't we have a governor that gave us a 400-year deal?
Yeah, we'll see how that sticks. We'll see how that sticks.
Okay, but, and can't we assume about the same number money as last year? As this year, I should say?
Yes. I mean, that's a good baseline to start with. You might have reason to believe. I don't think that's actually going to stick together, that game plan of 400 years of $325 per student increases. We could certainly build the budget and just say, let's just go with 325. If you all guess 325, the average will be 325. And off we go. But I'll ask for your input on student enrollment, so we guess our third Friday counts, and the amount per student. After that, we'll build the budget. Yeah?
Like a 66-page budget we're going to talk about. Is that right? Thank you.
Any other questions?
Good answer. Thank you.
I'm done.
Good job, Tom.
All right, up next, superintendent report.
We got hires and retirements.
Oh.
I also thought that that was after the superintendent's report.
Yes, it is after.
But I can go now.
All right, I'm looking at mine. Sorry. So for Super Report, first we'd like to acknowledge Scott and Erica Jankowski for graciously donating $2,000 to Eagleville Elementary Charter School in appreciation for grandparent and VIP lunch week and unique educational experiences at Eagleville. We will send a thank you to them. We're very grateful for their generosity. Do want to acknowledge what happened in Madison, that we're thinking and praying for the Madison community and the Abundant Life Christian School. The news, anytime this happens in our nation, in our world, it hits very hard. As parents, as educators, as community members, I can't think of greater tragedies. And this certainly is one that, when you think about it, right, there's just so many different layers to it. So keeping those folks, very close to us, particularly as we go into the holiday season. Just to remind the board, as a district, we have safety protocols. Tom, Andy Wegner have been working on those for years. We do have a great partnership with our law enforcement agencies, with EMS in the community. We're going to continue to advance our planning and our work around that this year. And then just the diligence of our staff, maintaining relationships with students, maintaining an eye on the perimeter of our building, all of those very important things that we need to do on a day-to-day basis to help prevent, a tragedy. Christine talked about the Speak Up, Speak Out, and the work that she and her teams do. All of those things, all of those touch points can have a positive impact if something could go awry. We can intervene early and get kids help and address the situations before we run into a tragedy. I do want to thank all the folks that came here tonight. The outside of our team here, I do greatly appreciate our team, but Stephanie, Deb, Andy Trudell, Ben, Michelle, Val, our student reps from Prairie View, and then the community members who took the time to come out and speak tonight. Wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I hope you all and the community has a great time with family and friends to rest and rejuvenate. And if your household is anything like mine, get the sickness out of the place before the holidays actually get here. So that concludes my report.
Thank you. I'd just like to take time out to thank all of our administrators that work with our student reps. I think it's really stepped it up this year, and it's outstanding seeing all the different students come in here and all the joy they have. And so, thank you.
Best part of the meeting.
Okay. Moving on to action items, hires, retirements, and resignations.
All right, we have 2 new contracts. Anne-Marie Capascio, former employee. We are offering her a limited term contract to come back and teach an ACT prep course that is only offered in the 3rd quarter. So she's being offered a 0.5 contract, and that would run January 27th through March 10th. Then we have Hannah Langloy, who is being offered a limited term contract for a position at Prairie View Elementary School. And then we have a resignation from Sarah Schultz, who is a special education teacher at Clarendon Elementary School. And we did not have any notices of retirement.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the resignation and the hires.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries. Up next is our executive session according to Wisconsin Statute 19.85. We will be doing an evaluation of the superintendent mid-year, and we will not be coming back into open session.
I make a motion to move into executive session.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mike,
Yes.
Jake,
Yes.
Dale,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Carolyn,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
Ross.